Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
All right, guys, welcome back to Bat Force Radio, the Batman DC podcast with no limits. We have an amazing episode today with an amazing guest. Today we have Robin D. Cross in Canada.
Yeah, hello.
We got Steve Teases over in Jersey.
Believe.
I'm Bat Force Tom. And let me just run through. These are just some of the highlights of the projects. This is not, I want to say this is like tip of the iceberg, but this is going to be a little bit of a long intro just because you need to know the hands that have touched these projects. So the next gentleman we're going to have on has worked on Austin Powers Goldmember, Meet the Fockers, The Nutty Professor, Men in Black 1 and 2, Godzilla, 7, Species, Stargate, Mission Impossible, Casino Royale, Planet of the Apes, Alien vs. Predator, The Wolfman, The Hobbit, Star Trek, some hero movies that you obviously like and have noticed is Amazing Spider-Man 2, Captain America Civil War, Thor, Iron Man 2, Superman Returns, Sin City, 300, Hellboy, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Aquaman. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rob Freitas.
Thank you.
Tom, take a second to hold your breath, man. That was a long list.
Yeah, man. Well, that's
not even half of it.
Take a breather.
I want to say it's like a third, not even. But yeah, Rob, we wanted to have you on. I'm sorry about that. I was just saying, obviously your resume is insane, and we've been wanting to talk to you for a bit. And so why don't you tell us first what you do on those kinds of films, and then maybe give us a origin story of how you got started from, let's say, I mean, you got pictures of a kid, you're young doing this stuff, and then eventually getting to now doing it as a career. So.
Yeah. What I do is a technical aspect. It's called mold making. So between creating, whether these days they do sometimes with a digital 3D print or whether they use clay, you start with the form, like say an actor's head, what he's eventually going to wear, and you make the mold. Then the print or clay is gone. So when you fill up the mold with the head, the core inside, that's how you replicate everything. Whether it's fake teeth, a fake nose, a cowl, muscles, you need a mold. That's where it all comes from. And so that's what I do. I make molds. And where I started was like my grandpa used to make molds, my mom's dad. And I grew up a big monster fan, creatures and stuff. And then, Famous Monsters magazine, when I learned in like the late 70s, early 80s, that's how they made monsters. They made molds. And, American Werewolf in London and John Carpenter's The Thing. Those movies were huge. I was 81. So I was like 11, 12 years old when that came out. So that was game changing for me. The superhero thing is that's just icing on the cake because, yes, those movies took a while. Like the first Captain America that came with the ears on the outside of the cowl. And, they started really slow. So when Michael Keaton's Batman came, you don't think of it as a creature shop opportunity. It was in London. And then I think when Batman Returns was done, they brought it over to LA, and then you kind of got a sniff of it. It's like, maybe I can work on one of those, but I never thought it was going to happen. It mostly work on prosthetic makeups for actors, character makeups and creatures, and the superhero stuff. I don't know. It just came much later. I was grateful. It's cool, because not everybody that works in feature shops are comic book fans, like the movies too. You always hear about these people that work on the movies and they're like, I've always been a fan. And you're like, no. You know what I mean? It's nice when they line up, and you can usually tell when they line up. Like, But that's kind of a synopsis of how I got started. It's a very technical aspect. Like when actors come in, we usually mold their heads, kind of like when you go to a dentist and they make a mold of your teeth. Sometimes we do that to their whole body. You know, these days with the computer pictures, they scan it. So then we can get a duplicate of their head or body to build from a computer image that grows it with a computer. That's technology. And the actors like it because most actors are, you know, they don't like when you get a head cast, you're breathing through your nose for like a half hour or an hour and you can't move. You know, you're completely cut. It's not a pleasant experience. And usually when actors, that's the first process. If before you make anything to fit them, you have to have their body parts to work from. So usually we're the first people I see, and it's usually the most comfortable moments of the entire gig. You know, it's nice later when it's all cool and they get to wear the costume and they're like, yeah, this is amazing. But in the beginning, like, oh, so what do we have to do today? Yeah, that's kind of what I do and how it started.
What was like the first like major production that you got your kind of your feet wet in?
I was pretty much broke. I was at a place that sold supplies, but I couldn't afford it. I saw a truck drive away with supplies. I followed it, and it ended up being a Steve Wang production of Guyver 2.
Wow.
And I basically started it at semi-forced, like I kind of worked my way into the door and interned a little bit. And then after a few weeks, they started paying me. And then I met a guy named Moto Hata. The guy that I met, Moto Hata, became my mentor. And to a little bit on what Moto ended up doing in his career is he did Sloth for 7.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite things that he also was supervising and did a lot of the sculpting on was Night Owl for Watchmen.
Oh, very cool.
And also he was a major, like the comedian. A lot of people don't realize the comedian had a fake torso and arms, like it was a makeup underneath the wardrobe. So Moto also sculpted that just to give him a more physique. So yeah, but that's one of my favorite things that Moto. He did a lot of creature stuff and Menem and this and that, but Night Owl is still kind of a favorite of mine. You know, it's pretty awesome.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember seeing Negan in Walking Dead, and then like I was startled at how thin he looked because I remember knowing him and seeing him so much as a comedian, and I thought he looked pretty buff, but that makes total sense now.
Yeah, I mean it happens more than you. A lot, like that's a lot of times part of our career and what we work on. It's the don't talk about it phase.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we get to, you know, like one of the longest ones was, you know, yeah, we'll get to it, but really hard, like, you know, because people start finding out that you worked on it and they're like, what's it gonna look like? What colors?
Yeah.
Kevin Smith said this, and I'm like, for like 2 years, I'm like, you just have to wait. Like 2 years that took because they pushed it. But normally it's like a year. And then sometimes it's kind of like, you know, we don't talk about the fact that for that magazine cover, Robert Downey Jr. is in a black t-shirt. He's got that little Iron Man light that we gave him a fake chest.
So
the same thing with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I've heard people reference, he got so big in Watchmen, so he would be perfect to play Thomas Wayne in a Batman movie. Like, oh well, I guess he didn't get that big.
Yeah, it was from like the same thing we did for Ron on Hellboy. Like that's not Ron's skin, you know. Not to say, you know, and sometimes it's weird because, you know, like even in a lot of the superhero films, like you guys are probably most familiar with Henry. Like he's a perfect example to use as, like, without the costume, the dude doesn't need any help.
Yeah.
Like when you say that, well, you know, Henry Cavill wears a muscle suit, people are like, why? Look at him. But just something happens when you have the skin tight fabric and you design it in a way to move with it. It kind of blends in almost tense between the muscles. So it smooths everything out. And so if you want the
Mm.
physique to translate through like the exterior material, like, yeah, Henry Cavill wears a suit. So if he can wear one, anybody can wear one.
Yeah.
'Cause that dude's huge.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You referenced the change in the technology, how there's the making molds of people's heads where we've all seen footage of that, where they have like straws coming out of their nose to breathe through for half an hour, but now there's the technology of just digitally scanning. Obviously the person being scanned versus molded is going to prefer being digitally scanned, but from your end, which way do you prefer working? Did you prefer working with the physical molds, or is the digital just fine for you as well?
Well, in a selfish sort of way, I kind of like the old ways because I get to meet them.
Yeah.
And if that's the most selfish, simple way of saying it. Like, I don't get to meet the people as often now because they just go somewhere else, got the camera. But that said, in the end product, because anytime you're putting something on skin, like it weighs it down, it moves it, right? There's gravity.
Yeah.
So the most accurate form to work off of is one that comes from the camera. And the camera is getting really, I mean, that was even something with Ben Affleck's Cowl, because technology was making a turn during that, like 2012, 2013. Like even Tron, the helmets were designed in the computer and printed. But textures, usually you needed to sand something smooth and add the textures. So the idea that the Ben Affleck cowl was printed, like it was grown in a computer, everything was done on the computer, and then it was printed to a form. That was something that we kept secret for like 2-3 years, and just let people guess at how we did it. Because it was very, that was like when I saw Cowl when it came into the shop, and they're like, okay, you're gonna work on this. We were like, holy shit, look at that. The computer's like, it's the computer starts making leaps and bounds. And to be honest, it's a more pleasant experience for the talent. So then we get a more accurate, sometimes if they're not enjoying themselves, but you're trying to mold their head, maybe because of their discomfort, facial expression represents the discomfort. There's a lot to it. I like the, I guess the short answer is I prefer the technology, even though I don't get to meet the people.
So oh man,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so you got to like physically work with face to face with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I'll tell you what, like, because I know you guys are big into the zaddy, as you like to say. I can tell a few stories. Yeah, for me it was a highlight too, so I'm game for that. I mean,
yeah,
because let's just admit, I worked on MOS at Ironhead Studio, and what we did is, because Mike Wilkinson, remember, was the man behind Watchmen, and Jose had done maquettes for the Watchmen figures. Jose Fernandez, owner of Ironhead. So on Man of Steel, Frontline was doing the Superman suit for Henry, but they needed some overflow. So at Ironhead, we did Russell Crowe's muscles, and then his outfits that he wore on Krypton. There was kind of some armor-esque type things where he fought Zod in the beginning, and So Wilkinson and Jose had a tie on MOS. So the next step was, obviously when Zack Snyder was at San Diego Comic-Con, and they had the actor read that phrase from Frank Miller's comic book, the big screen that went up immediately, holy shit, is my phone gonna ring? Batman's in the next Superman movie. This is where they're going, because after the Chris Nolan, and again, those are done in England, so it's not like I get to work on them. But we had no idea after MOS where they were going. So yeah, I got a call a month after that Comic-Con, and it was Jose.
Wow.
And he's like, and I'm working, and he knows it. And he's just like, hey, I started this gig. Maybe you should come by my shop at night. Come on your way home from work. The shop will be kind of empty, and I just got a few things to show you. I'm like, all right. And so, I did. And it wasn't the last thing I was thinking about was what I was about to say. But when I walked into his shop, it was kind of all emptied out. And they had the design work blown up on the wall, and it was like a lot of Dark Knight. It was all black and gray, like images. It was a photo morgue all over the shop of Ironhead. And I looked at the walls and I looked at Jose. I said, "You have to be fucking kidding me. He's in it, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "So they're doing the black and gray?" He's like, "Yeah." And they're doing the material look like this, too many boxes to check all in once. And he was like, "Yeah." And it was a slow process in the beginning, but what happened is, like, because Ben Affleck was still doing pictures on Gone Girl, and his weight was important for a while, right? So when you see these memes of Ben in Detroit, he's eating too much pizza, but he's in a Batman, he was still doing Gone Girl.
Yeah.
And so what was going on was Jose had a body form of Ben from Daredevil, because Jose worked on Daredevil with Ben Affleck before, right? So he did the Cowl for Ben Affleck. So they knew each other. And so they started doing the muscle suit mock-up and tech suit or mech suit mock-up for BVS, the old body form. So slowly, as Gone Girl was done, this is where I met Ben when we went to, and I think you could find pictures online because it was a crazy day. I went over to this place called Cyber Effects, and they have the cameras for the scanning, for the bodies and everything. But we were going to do Ben's head cast there on the day. And Ben showed up in a beautiful 1966 Chevelle, just a beautiful car. They opened up the gate. Ben came in. They closed the gate. And, because he had been announced, I guess, as Batman, fans had been hovering around his where he lived. So they followed him.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
And so when they closed the gate after Ben drove his car, and I'm not kidding you, man, people were coming over the fences like World War Z.
Holy shit.
You're looking at it, you're like, I've never seen anything like this. And, Ben's just like a white sweatshirt. And he went into the shop, and the owner of the company went out there with the baseball bat. This is my property, not yours. Yeah, we went in, and I just yeah, exactly. Well, there is paparazzi just want a photo. It's not like, for me, I remember just walking in and standing next to Ben going, holy shit, he's tall.
Yeah.
Like, that was my first impression. Like, he's a massive dude. Like, I'm 6'2". So, when I meet someone like that, it's like and he was really the character. And I'm like, oh my God, this may be the time that someone actually likes the character that gets to play him.
Rob,
so on that.
I'm sorry. How long does a typical scanning take digitally, and do you have to do different sessions, or is it usually completed throughout the course of one complete day?
It depends on the person. Like, if you're going to scan the body person, you have to assume the pose. You have to hold your breath because you don't want your gut moving around. Right. And the hardest part is the actor needs to remain perfectly still. So if they fade forward or back, the image gets stretched out.
Wow.
So a lot of times what they do is, and the cameras are kind of almost like matrix, kind of around the person in a cylinder shape.
Okay.
And there's hundreds of cameras, right? A lot of the times for the bodies. Like, the person is sitting in a tube of cameras around them. And then it just takes thousands of pictures, like, really. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll do it times. It only takes a few minutes each time. And then you can take the imagery and put it together. Like, you can take the left arm off this one, the right arm off. Like, in the computer, you can take best of the best.
Right, the most consistent, and just compile.
Yeah, it's not easy to stand still. It sounds silly, but I had to do it before just to see what it was like. And even the smallest movement screws up the whole scan. But for the actor, it's a lot better than having people rub plaster bandage all over them for an hour, having your arms and legs fall asleep. I mean, it's not really a pleasant experience, even though it was my job.
No, yeah, I think that's great. Obviously, as like a craftsman, you want to have the hands-on experience, but as artists, we all want technology to help us achieve that result, so we can just have the most accurate portrayal. So I'm a big horror fan, and I remember growing up seeing Robert Englund being portrayed as Freddy, and he was showing the process, and that's like 5 or 6 hours of makeup work, and you almost feel bad for the guy, like before you even get started, it's so much preparation. So it's nice to see that technology helps you achieve that a little quicker.
Yeah, they're getting, a lot of things have changed, and a lot of times too, with the makeups, and when you hear actors say like, "Hey, it took like 8 hours," it's like I'll tell you from the other side, the actor won't sit for 8 hours.
Sure.
That may be part of their narrative later on, but that's the hardest part now with technology as an option, say. And like even on BVS, there's certain people who, we give a lot of praise to. It's like, like Batman, we just, like with an A-list actor, if it's not comfortable, he won't wear it. If he doesn't want to wear it, then like Iron Man, that's why Robert Downey Jr. only wears it now. Like in the last 5 films, he's like, do I really need to wear this? No. Well, then I'm not gonna. You guys can put the CG armor around me. So we're making things. That's always in the back of our mind. So like with Cowls, for instance, like I have, Sean Reeves is a friend of mine, and I know a lot of these people that these Cowls, and they do great work. It's just a different type of thing when you're dealing with an actor that doesn't want to wear it or has to wear it all day. So when you see Ben Affleck on set next to Zack Snyder, like in between shots, and he's leaning over a camera, and he's still got the cowl, in between shots of the warehouse scene, and he didn't take the cowl off. I look at them and go, he did a good job because he's still wearing anything. Like he sometimes when they say cut in between scenes, the actors can't wait to rip the shit off. Yeah. So when we're doing a like that was some of the prerequisites. Like Ben's like, I want this thing it's not going to glue on my skin like Night Owl. I'm not going to wait to have it removed. It's not going to be permanently attached. I want it off on in like 30 seconds. I want it quick. In the suit, we want it comfortable. And like you guys talked about having Richard Citrone on, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it works out because the one I'll mention his name because we should. When it came to the mech suit, originally the rumors that we were hearing in the shop was we're going to do a mock-up. Ben's going to wear it and stand there, and then once it goes into the fight, mostly CGI. So we did the mock-up. Richard came into the shop. I think Zack people came over to Ironhead, and Richard did a martial arts display while wearing the suit. And we got 3 months of work for the mechanical suit because of the demo that Richard did.
That's awesome.
Oh, wait. He can fight in it? It's like, yeah, he can move. He could, so we 3D printed all the parts and molded and casted them. And I was not trying to learn about the story. And I remember Jose, the day that he handed me, there's the front chest piece of Batfleck's mech suit, but it's got the hand from Superman. And I'm like, oh shit, what's he doing to him? I'm like, I don't like. He's sticking to the comic book, right? I'm like, well, there's no Green Arrow, but yeah, it's fun. The tech is cool. Meeting the actor, like Ben was awesome. And it was weird too at that situation. Like the things that people forget about is like we're meeting Ben just as the internet keeps saying no, right?
Yeah.
Like those of us with a memory, like everybody's on bandwagon Batfleck now.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember meeting him then. That was like a major theme. Like no one was happy that he was cast. And then the next actor that we met for that film, because Henry was done at another shop. At our shop, we did Wonder Woman, Batman. So then Gal came in, and she got the same treatment. People are like, man, she's no Linda Carter. She's no, and everybody had something to say. So it's kind of nice now that, because like, look, I've been in like November of 2013, so it's been a while. But it like, and that's why it's kind of cool to talk to fellows like yourself. It's nice to work on some appreciation. Yeah. It's nice to see like Ben earned it and see everybody turn it. Like he just went and did his job, and it's nice that the work that we did, it's still like a lot of people talk about it in a very positive way. And that feels good, because you work on a lot of stuff that barely gets seen in movies. So aside from being a Batman fan, it's nice that fans dig what we did. But as a Batman fan, yeah, it's kind of neat to be in the room with that shit. You know, it's hard though, because you don't want to like not work and just browse around the shop. Like it's odd when sometimes people ask like, so how'd they do this? I'm like, I had no idea. It's like, you were working on it. I'm like, yeah, but I was so focused on mine. Like the cape was so much work. Like little things, you know, and the fabric, you know, it all goes back to me. Like I like the Batman suits from the 90s. I just, once they did Spider-Man with the material over muscles, that's kind of like, oh, look, that's how a superhero should look, maybe. And the guy that worked on Spider-Man was Jim Ashton. So the guy that was doing Man of Steel that came up with the silver muscles underneath the blue fabric, like literally, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. The technique they used on Man of Steel, right? That idea was Jim Atchison, the guy that worked on the Spider-Man suit, was working on Man of Steel. Jim Atchison's second was Mike Wilkinson. So there's a lineage, like in BVS, to have that material over muscles. It goes all the way back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Like there's a direct lineage to like superheroes changed. It's not all polished rubber. It's like it's going to be more real, the material, muscles or no muscles. Which I prefer. I'm not a big armor guy.
Yeah, that came at a perfect time because we had grown so accustomed to, especially with the Dark Knight movies, as those progressed, Batman's suit became more and more armor. You know, went from being a full suit to, by the end, it was all of these pieces of armor that looked like they were assembled together into a suit. So it was really cool to see things turn back the way the comics look.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know. Like sometimes you know, it's just my age. Like obviously the video games are all armor and stuff like that. And I don't game. So, you know, I don't have the time for it. It's not like I wouldn't enjoy it. But like my favorite parts of Batman imagery is like the capes and the cowl.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you guys have had Kelly Jones on it. It's like, yeah, like I'll be honest though, when I was younger, it wasn't my cup of tea as much as it is now that I'm older. Like, I love the scary look, the silhouette. Like, I don't need to see his muscles. I just, like, it's all about the cape and the cowl and kind of a scary image. Kind of like when Bernie Wrightson did it. And it comes to the cowl, you know, like, I love the long ears, like the Neil Adams. And then kind of Jim Aparo took over that style. But then there was also, like, when Marshall Rogers had a thing where the ears were, like, thicker. And there was, there was a third surface to the ears that made them look almost like they could be used as weapons. You know, like you guys just focused on the cowl and cape, and I kind of missed that. You know, and then I'm a fan of Frank Miller's Batman, but it definitely seemed to take more, like it was more about Brawn and less about like the scary part to me.
Yeah.
And I get it because I like the story. And when I was a teenager reading, okay, this is great. And like, you know, and then year one, like, you know, Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli had worked before on, was it Daredevil Born Again? Yeah. And after Dark Knight, seeing them again and it was cool to see like Frank just leave the art to Mazzucchelli himself, you know. And I love the short ears, and just because the story was so good, you just go with it. But then, you know, you got guys like Norm Brayfogle, Kelly Jones that came back and they brought that look back. And I guess I just talk about that now because I'm still waiting to see that in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so you get this phone call from Jose Fernandez, by the way, which is so awesome that you have a work/friendship with him. So obviously we could talk about that. But you get a phone call from him a month after you saw this news from San Diego Comic-Con. You walk into his studio, you see these portraits. You're like, no fucking way. And then later on, you see Batman himself, Ben Affleck, driving his car into the lot with hordes of zombie nerds coming over the top of the
literally,
fence. And then you're talking about how, you know, they're doing the Dark Knight Returns suit, they're doing the black and the gray. It's comic book accurate. And then we were just talking just now about that looks amazing. Obviously, it's what a treat to have as a fan. But you are also saying how you're still waiting for that Norm Brayfogle / Kelly Jones looking suit. Hopefully one day somebody will do. Man, you're talking to the right guys, because we've talked about that endlessly. About they should just do like a really scary horror version of Batman, and make it mostly shadows. You see shots of his suit, but those long ears are there, and it just scares you,
dude. Like Tim Sale, come on! It's like, can we just, it's like. That's the tough part about when you're working on this stuff and you're also a fan, what we did on Batfleck looked awesome. And I'm just happy for him because he was a fan. Like most actors and directors, when they say that they've read the comics since they were a kid, they're just, okay, name your favorite story. They got nothing. Name your favorite artist. They got nothing. Ben was a fan. You could tell he knew comics. He wanted to do this. So when he gets in the suit and he says, "Hey man, I'm fucking Batman," it's like, yes, you're also the guy that the whole entire world just said no, but you're going to change their opinion because you look badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, a long-eared, and that's the hard part where people are like, all right, it's the perfect cowl and the perfect suit. What you guys did on BVS is perfect. And I'm like, you can't improve it. And I'm like, well, if it was a Les Miller of a cowl and if you take the material look and a slightly more style, even put the emblem on it. I'm okay with the emblem, with the gold or yellow. I want trunks, right? I want black trunks. Give me some long ears and make a cape that covers him up. I love it when they draw it. And he's just, even Brian Boland used to be good at that too. Just that silhouette. Kelly Jones that's one of my favorites. And the older I get and the more movies they make, the more I long for what Kelly Jones does. And the Joker too, the Rogue Gallery, it's the same way. It's it's nothing against Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger or their performances. It's just, before they made these movies, I had an image and I'm still waiting to see that on screen, right? You guys are the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take what they give me, but
because when we look back at the older comics, when we think of the cowl, anyone who's been reading comics long enough is accustomed to, Batman pulls the cowl back off his head and it hangs there like a hood.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But what we see in the movies has always been, just like the suits, it's more that the rigid armor kind of
a helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man, but Go ahead,
Tom.
Rob. I was going to say, you guys got as close to that as I think anyone has with the moving cowl, where he can finally turn his head. And I think it's just a matter of time before, I don't know how they figure out the science behind it, but you're the guy that knows that better than anybody, what they have to do to make it look like that. But
well, it's tough. Not only is it tough to do it, it's tough because who you're doing it on.
Mm.
And Ben is and Richard and all those people that wore the cowl. They're really nice and they're troopers. It's just, it's long days. It's every day. It's comfort is important because they got to be able to perform without worrying about what's bugging them on the bridge of their nose. There's a lot of factors that the cosplay and the other people, those worlds don't have to encounter. Right. So just making them happy is part of it. And the technology for the turn is goes back to the creature suit type thing. If you think about Predator and you see pictures of the 80s Predator with the helmet off and you can see the actors, Kevin Peter Hall underneath, you can see what he's wearing and how when he turns the Predator head, it turned his head. So what Jose is, he took technology that we've been exposed to from creatures and said, how do you connect the top of the head to the shoulders? It's not just about the material. There has to be something else inside. And most of the R&D for the cowl, because that's what we did. That was even Justice League. Let me tell you the BVS story first. Jose had ideas. They did a lot of R&D. At the same time, they're wondering with the technology if they're going to be able to print the leather texture. They knew it was going to be textured. And the R&D was mostly done by a friend of mine, Jim McLaughlin, who I used to work with at Rick Baker's for many years. So the cowl itself, the outside was molded by Jim. And the inside, it had all of these informations that when the neck bends, will it not buckle or fold? Or turning wasn't just the main thing. looking like a human neck, and the anatomy stayed underneath, looking like it was Ben's neck. That was part of it too. So a lot went into it. And the pictures that Ironhead put on, Jose put up on his wall, there's 2 photos. One's from behind, and then one's from behind with his head turned. That was the first foam cowl out of the seamless mold that Jim made with my collapsible 8-piece magnetic core inside. Right, that's highly technical talk, but someone's listening may understand what I'm talking about.
And now, if anyone wants to see it, I think that's what you had at one point posted pictures of on your Instagram, right?
Well, I have this weird thing where I showed the underside of the core. I haven't showed what it looks like inside the cowl. What I haven't showed are Jose's secrets, because I have this. My fingers are crossed that there's going to be more Ben. And I think that Ben and Jose got along well. So maybe I'm keeping a secret because maybe there's a chance that I get to work on it again.
Nice.
I mean, even with Justice League, that was kind of the thought. It's like they shipped my work to London when Justice League went overseas. I mean, this is also something that the everyday fan has to understand. Like, we at Ironhead built all the Batman and all the Wonder Woman stuff. And in the film, we didn't get credit.
No.
So, in the politics, well, it's the film industry, and it's really tough, man. And sometimes it affects the way that, can you just, well, it is what it is. Or, come on, Wilkinson or Snyder. It's like, we did do the Batman suit. The Wonder Woman suit, they're still kind of using the same molds. They added armor in 84 and different looks. But, for her solo film, they used our same work. And Wilkinson was the boss, but at least every once in a while, it'd be nice for them to mention Jose or Ironhead.
Yeah, man.
So
for sure.
And before BVS came out, we already knew that Justice League went to London because they were already building the sets and the suits. So it's tough to work on something and keep secrets for a couple of years. And I really enjoyed BVS, but man, we didn't get to work on Justice League. And they sent my work there. They're going to be able to reverse engineer my interior, like my collapsible core that helped the neck turn.
I was about to say, they totally Operation Paperclipped your stuff.
But they weren't able to, I have friends in London that worked on the film, and they were a bit confused at what I did, thankfully. And I said, well, it serves you right. You just can't get this stuff shipped in the mail like Amazon International and then take over our show. But I met Wilkinson, and he came and looked at what I was doing, and it working on a Batman cowl. It was so much fun. And it's hard being the employee and focus on it, and at the same time you go home. Like, if you look at the pictures on my Instagram, I thought it was ironic that there was a time where they were talking about maybe having a seam, or do we do the collapsible core, or like, how are we going to do the cowl? And I just told them I wanted a shot because I was familiar with the guys that have come before, like James Kernot on Batman Begins, Ray Fisher on Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and a fellow named Paul James did the collapsible core on Batman Returns. Now, in tech speak, the collapsible core means the interior of the mold comes apart, so on the outside there's no seam lines, which is important.
Yeah,
that's how you get that clean surface to the outside of the cowl. Highly technical and difficult to do, but I felt good to join this group of 4 or 5 people that have done it, period. Going back to Batman Returns, which was the first one. Because if you watch Batman 89, there's shots where you can see the line down the back of the cowl. Especially the beginning, where he's like, "Who are you? Who are you? I'm not going to kill you. I want you to tell all your friends about me." And you could see the line there.
But even that looks kind of cool, though.
I love it.
I know what you're talking about, but I never thought that that's what that was. I just thought it was I don't know. It just looks like a cool, spider webby stick. It just looks cool. I don't even know. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about now, and I know people will know now, but to me, I just thought that's just a sweet little detail.
I love the roughness. I just put that movie on. There are aspects of that movie where I just think it's more of an Elseworlds tale.
Oh, yeah.
But there are also aspects to that movie. In the beginning of the movie, when Batman hears the people screaming, I would think that he would probably jump off the roof and use the grappling hook and not turn and walk back into the chapel. There's little things, but it's goofy. But then it's also like, how can you beat the descent into mystery and the like when he saves her and get like the introduction of the Batmobile or the Batcave, like there are so many things that they nailed in that first movie, and but like there's also little things like in BVS. It's like one of the guys I worked with, like you mentioned, Godzilla, Patrick Tatopoulos, because he was the creature designer on that.
Whoa.
So
is there any relation to the fact that the main character is named Nick Tatopoulos?
That was kind of a play on words because the director was French and Patrick's, yeah.
That's so funny.
So, I met him back then, and that's when he was also like production designer on Dark City. He went on to production design like Underworld. He directed the third Underworld film. Like we've been friends for a long time. We've gone out on the racetrack and because we're both motorcycle enthusiasts. So, there was also a moment like when BVS was coming around where he emailed me. He's like, "Hey, I heard." And I'm like, "I heard too." Like, he's like, "I get to design the Batmobile." I'm like, "I get to mold a Batman cowl." It's like, because he was production designer on BVS and Justice League. So it's a kind of a small world at times when things shrink up like that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. We were joking, but it's insane to me. How much of you've injected yourself into some of the most amazing things that we consider to be like childhood masterpieces, like Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, the stuff that you've recently worked on. Like, it's just crazy to think that, like, I mean, you talked about it. You said it feels good to know as a fan that you got to work on it, and it feels good to know that other fans appreciate it. Well, let me just tell you, man, I'm pretty sure even if Ben isn't your favorite Batman, even if BVS isn't your favorite movie, I think it's pretty well accepted across the board that the BVS suit and cowl in general is probably the best on-screen looking bat suit. Putting aside your favorite childhood nostalgia, I think it's pretty well. And it's funny because we talked about wanting to talk to you. We're talking to you. We want to talk to Richard. Robin, I'm forgetting his name, who designed
Jared Marantz.
Yeah, and so we have plans.
His artwork was on the wall.
Yeah,
and so that's what I mean. It's like we get to talk. We're trying to talk to him. Then we get to talk to he draws it. You put it together, and then Richard wears it. You know what I mean? And across the board, like through those phases, at no point did the quality of this is the best looking bat suit ever fade out. Like that's like literally like the way it moves, the way it looks. Like you guys nailed it, man. You nailed it out of the park. And it is going to be really hard. Like you said, like, we're going to do a different one. We're going to do another one. It's like, well, how do you improve on it? And maybe the answer is that you can't. But
you can't compete. I think one thing they do a lot now is like maybe as comic book fans, I look at it this way. I relate it to the 80s. I liked Kelly Jones and still like Mazzucchelli at the same time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the stories, like if I read Prey or if I read Holy Terror, maybe sometimes I would like one better than the other. I don't have to put them up against each other. Like I still like Bale. There are moments like I love the warehouse scene. I don't think they should have released it in a trailer. I think it should have been saved for the theatrical experience. But I still look back at the dock scene that Nolan did, and I just love that scene. That dude getting sucked into the dark, what I mean? It's like there are bits, like even the Burton one. It's like there's still moments in all of them where you get good Batman moments in most films. I think as Nolan went on, you got less Batman moments, and like with the Bane thing, Nolan likes to. Like this is a cloth and it needs this, and he likes to explain everything. And I think I would look at Nolan and say, well, if Bane can't live with one of those tubes dislodged, how does Bane eat or drink? Do you think about that? Like sometimes I think it's important for these guys just to remember it's a comic book and don't explain everything. Just let it happen.
I think I think it's where it shoots itself in the foot sometimes is when it tries to explain itself too much. Like it tries to forgive. It's like you're saying, sorry, I'm sorry. But, and as I don't know. We again, this is an argument that we can have for years about the Nolan films. There are definitely amazing parts of the Nolan films that all of us love. I'll tell you something that's going to piss a lot of people off right now. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's their favorite? Batman Begins, The Dark Knight." I'm going to be 100% honest. I think about this all the time. I kind of really like Dark Knight Rises, and I know compared to the other two, people think it's shit, but there's cinematography in that movie that you just can't kind of touch. You know, I know people hate seeing Batman in the daylight. I kind of like it, you know, just because it's not normal. And I don't know. Long story short.
You don't have to shorten up. It's okay to Tom, express yourself.
Yeah, but yeah, you can always edit it out later anyway.
Well, I'm trying to save myself death threats. But by the way, we have a bonus pick. I just realized this, Robin. Because Robin put up a poll on his Instagram page asking about Batman 89 Batmobile versus Tumbler. And my argument, Rob, is that there's only one Batmobile in those comparisons because the Tumbler's not a Batmobile, the 89 Batmobile. And you voted Tumbler, but I guess I'll let you explain yourself. You said Tumbler for everyday use, and then you said 89 for the weekends.
Well, yeah, I live in Los Angeles. You do too. Come on, man. Those are freeways and roads. I want the Tumbler. Like if I was on a cruising Highway 1, or if I lived back home in Northern California, I'd take the 89. I could polish it on my parents' lawn. Yeah, cool. but here in LA, it's like, you know, and that's also another thing too. It's like, as a car, like, you know, Julian nailed the design. Cadlo, right? He's the one that did the sketch. Like Anton First, I give him full credit for the production design, but that Keaton car, so to speak, was designed by Julian. And to compete with it is very difficult. You know what I mean? Like Justice League without the guns. Sorry, Patrick. I prefer, like, you know, the BVS, like the car Patrick did. I dig it. You know? But that look of the 89, like, I don't know if it's just because I was a teenager when it hit, or like I was 20, you know, it's like, and you hadn't seen anything like it before. It's pretty iconic. But driving in LA, the Tumbler, dude, it wins. Come on.
Yeah.
You know,
that's assuming that you are going to take advantage of it and just plow through the traffic.
I have dreams of doing that. Like, just like when Robin put that picture up, and I'm like, Tumbler, and I'm already thinking of, like, on my way to work, Highway 5, and just that dude that's not paying attention and he's on his cell phone. I'm just, because, you know, that's one thing I liked about Nolan, and the usage of his vehicle was, like, you know, he showed that capability of, like, it was a tough car, and I kind of liked that. You know, like something about the pristine imagery of the 89 kind of fit with what Burton was going for, but it's also, you know, I could take both. It's a tough call, man.
Since you voted for Tumblr, I'm just going to I'll let you know the results. I didn't count the comments on the post, but I did the story post where people just click, you know, for one or the other. And the final count at the end of the 24 hours was 383 votes for the Tumblr and 753 for the 89.
Yeah, because these days, Tumblr. Yeah, I just, well, people are, it's practicality versus imagery. And, you know, when it comes to the films, I'm still waiting for the imagery. And I think that's what that shows, that vote. You know? Yeah. I said, it's like, how many times have we seen a Batman movie? But we haven't really seen, like, that the Batman and the Joker and the stuff that I grew up with, and you guys are probably fans of too.
And just like we talked about wanting to see on the screen the way Batman looks in the comics, you know, the long ears, the logo on the chest, maybe even a blue and gray suit or something, you know, whatever we can get. Similar to that, many of us who are accustomed to the Batmobile in the comics being a souped up car, that's what we like to see. Like, I really like the design for the Matt Reeves Batman Batmobile, because that looks like, you know, in his early days, he took one of the cars that he had and just got it ready for battle.
Well, the comic books I read in the 70s, he used to use a Corvette in sports cars too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I get it if somebody's younger and never read those comics. And, a lot of times, I believe that not all fans of Batman are fans of the comic books.
Yeah,
and I get that.
Good statement.
And I like, and people just, they like to one or the other. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you should just read some comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember when they started making comic book movies, it's like you try to explain to people that comic books maybe are a lot darker than you think, because they think they're all fluff. And it's like, maybe you should read Arkham Asylum or The Killing Joke or The Dark Knight Returns, or like some of the more popular ones. And then you could even do a deep dive. And like, there was a reason. I mean, personally, the one thing about like the Snyder universe and whatnot for myself is I'm just a Batman fan. I'm not really into the superpowers. And I've just always read the Batman books. So when you mention Matt Reeves, like, I'm hoping they can coexist. And I love his trailer and I love that car. It appeals to me. It doesn't diminish the 89 anymore. And there's always a part of me when I see what Reeves is doing, hoping that it's going to kind of, like, even with the suit, like, I'm hoping there's a growth and he goes towards what we know in the comics.
Yeah, that's what I've heard anyway.
Yeah, it's I talk to, I talk to certain friends overseas and stuff like that, but they're as tight-lipped with some stuff as I was with what I was working on.
Yeah, I don't know if this is in line with anything you may or may not have heard from anyone, but a while back there was a guy who leaked some info. I think it was originally on a Reddit post, and he claimed that he was working on set building on the Matt Reeves Batman movie, and he started spilling a little bit of info, and he explained that the suit that we have seen in the pictures and the trailer and everything is, well, at the time there wasn't a trailer yet, but he said the suit we've seen in the pictures that they put out was just what he was going to be wearing in the early parts of the movie. It's the first suit that he's made. And the guy claimed in this post that early-ish in the movie, we were going to see that suit get destroyed in an explosion. And then he was going to have to switch to a suit that he was still in the process of making. And then we get the trailer, months and months and months later. And what do we see happen in the trailer is he gets blown up.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some truth to that. And we will get, what the guy said was a more comic book looking suit.
I hope so. I mean, it's like, even that said, it's like I love Lee Bermejo's artwork too. So, like, as long as it fits the context of the story, I'm okay with it. Just sometimes I wouldn't mind if they just went like, I want the horror, I want the fantasy. Reeves's trailer looks and feels like it's going to be more about like a detective thing, and that's kind of something I'm wanting. So
so many of us have always wanted a Batman movie to be basically Seven with Batman.
Oh my god! I remember like when I first went and saw that film. It was basically Seven and American Psycho. There's your director, there's your actor.
Yeah.
Right? And they were talking about the Aronofsky thing. But Seven, it's perfect. John Doe's a great Joker. There you go.
Oh, man.
But that movie goes to a time that we will never get again, like an element of surprise that the internet has eliminated. Because in all of the marketing for that movie, they never mentioned that Kevin Spacey was in it. You didn't know who the villain you were going to eventually see was.
Right. Yeah, but maybe they can do that.
It's got to be tough.
Well, I know, but that's part of the, but it's kind of fun that way. Like, even with BVS, right? Like, because, the head turn was a big thing. Like Wilkinson and Jose, it's like there was a lot of talks about it. Like Zack, he wanted it. Like, it was a long process, and it worked because they took time and we tried a lot of things. And everybody was asking about it. And the funniest part of it was it was leaked. The success of the turn was leaked before BVS came out because the Suicide Squad footage of Batman on top of the Joker car.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we were like, like you're talking about the internet, or it's hard to keep things from the public, but we almost did it because, like Kevin Smith talked about the suit, because it's the black and gray, book number 3. And people were asking me, like, I'd go to Monster Palooza or Comic-Con and friends are coming up and going, and I'm like, I just gotta wait, dude. You gotta wait. Like, I want to talk, like, all I'm saying is, like, look, I'm a fan and I'm really hyped. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm the first person to say, like, well, it's okay. No, I think what we did is going to be cool.
Oh yeah.
And the guy wearing it, he's into it. And there's stunt guys. And, I think the director likes comic books, proven with 300, and Watchmen. And, I kind of wish that he was more on Dark Knight Returns, like stuck to that story a little bit, less Lex Luthor and Doomsday. But that's just me.
Yeah, and you can see the aspects of that he put into BVS, like the core of Batman v Superman was very much that part of Dark Knight Returns, right. And then in when we got Zack's cut of Justice League, he has that moment in the sort of epilogue part at the end where Batman's in that suit, in the what you guys nail, your cowl and everything, and standing on top of the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns tank.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some flavor from that, but it would have been great to see him get to flesh out an entire movie of that story.
Yeah. It's hard to like remember everything that was going on because, like we started the movie. They started shooting the movie, and then the release date, like I remember we were wondering about our jobs because the release date was pushed a full year while working on the film. And I think that's when conversations went from like this movie to DCEU. Like, because we started the film, they were filming in 2014, and then it didn't come out till 16. It was going to come out in 15, but it was
holy
pushed.
Shit. Wait, when was it that you guys did the picture that you were showing me, the screen test? That was 2013.
Yeah. Kevin,
God.
Like Comic-Con, July 2013. My phone call and tour of Ironhead, seeing the artwork on the walls, was late September 2013. I started my job in October, right before Halloween. I met Ben Affleck at the end of November, right after Thanksgiving, like the Saturday after Thanksgiving, the World War Z episode. And that went well. It was cool to meet him. Like when you meet someone that's 6'4" and he's got that frame and he's like, obviously he knew the character. You can tell from the chats. And we were so excited. And so we worked on it until February of 2014 and filming began. They were in Detroit through spring of 2014.
Yeah, I spent a day, it must have been the summer of 2014. I spent a day in downtown Detroit watching them shoot.
Oh, shit.
And you speak of Zack and him being a fan of comics. That is reflected like that. That's one of my favorite things is having people involved in a project whose their heart is in it because it's not just another job for them. It's something they're excited about, and you can see that in watching Zack. So one of the scenes that I watched them do is right in the beginning of BVS when Bruce is driving through the streets of Metropolis while Superman is fighting Zod. So they were shooting him driving in that black SUV, and we see Zack walking up the street with the stunt driver, and he's explaining the route with them as they walk along it. But doing that, the way he's explaining that, and the other scenes that we watched them shoot, he was so excited, like he had a smile on his face, and he's animated and happy to be doing what he's doing, and you can tell that he's completely into what he's doing.
Yes, and that's something that for me outweighs the final product. like as one that like works on these things, like behind the scenes type of stuff. Like most of what we work on, we have no idea the end product.
Yeah.
It means a lot to meet someone like that, you know, or to work for someone like Jose, to meet someone like Wilkinson, and then you meet Zack, and like, you know, you meet the actor, and you're like, okay, this all seems pretty positive. Maybe, you know, because you look at the artwork on the wall and you're like, the potential's there. I'm a fan. I know everybody else in the room is like, well, why doesn't he look like George Clooney? It looks different. I'm like, just
Shut up.
You know, because
Shut up.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But you know, it's like he's not all black. It's like he doesn't like, where's his armor? It's like,
Where are the nipples?
yeah, dude, these are real conversations. And you know, and sometimes you just do what you do your best, and then you just hope that everything lines up. And even like without me, like, you know, honestly, like MOS, I love like the first 75-80%, like love. And the ending, I'm the kind of viewer that gets a little bored with the elongated kind of CGI fights. They feel like video games to me.
Yeah.
And that's just me.
Yeah.
And BVS is the same. It's like, you know, it was a little of a bitter taste when you watch it and you didn't get credit. You're like, God damn it. It's like all that work and our name's not even on it. Whatever. And they took Justice League to London. Damn it. And then you watch the film again, and I'm like, I really like the foundation and the table that he set. Like up until like the birth of Doomsday, I really love that movie. You know, the warehouse scene to me, I kind of wish it was in a different spot in the film, maybe, just because the only thing I thought is it kind of outshined the actual fight between Supes and Batman.
Big time. I would say I wish that would have been like his intro scene of the film. Like intro, like I know the one, you know, you want to go for Spooky and you want to go for him like branding him and stuff, but you're right. And I think that scene was too close to the end, and it was too much to like. I watched out of every scene in the movie, I watched that the most on YouTube.
Of course, and it's so well done, and it's brutal, and you know, I like seeing that. It doesn't, like I said before, though. It's like I could still watch Nolan's film in that dock scene. I can still love that too.
Yeah,
like I'm just one of those guys. Go ahead.
But that warehouse scene, though, regardless of where they put it in the film, it was going to outshine everything else, because it's the pinnacle of live action Suit and Cowl. You know, the whole look of Batman. It's the pinnacle of that, and the pinnacle of Batman's physicality in live action. Like nothing else. Like it was such a huge step up from what we had everything previous, and we knew it was going to be. I remember when the promotion was going on for BVS, you know, while they were still making it, there was a video from one of the choreographers, and he kind of shit on the fight choreography from the Nolan movies. And when he did that and described what we were going to see different in BVS, okay, they're gonna go hard in this one.
Yeah, I would kind of maybe agree with that comment. Like if you're gonna show the fights like that, I wasn't really a fan of the Nolan fights too much. Little elbows and
it's just slow boxing and some elbows, and you know, for a guy who is supposed to be a master of every martial art. Yeah, and you know, again, and this is like you get a predicament where, you know, fan versus employee, because before The Dark Knight starts, just after Prestige, I was working at K&B, and we were working on 310 to Yuma. And that's when they're like, hey, Christian Bale's coming in because, you know, in the movie he had a military accident and he's missing a leg. So we're going to mold his leg in case we have to make a prosthetic. I'm like, okay. And they're like, you're going to be able, you know, you're not going to squid out too much on Christian, are you? I'm like, no. So, you know, he came in and he was wearing the Casey t-shirt, you know, the fighting style. And I'm kind of like, okay, don't say it. It's like, I didn't really like that fighting style.
You know what, Christian Bale?
Like, listen here, you're a great Batman, and I dug it. Like like how cool was it to see a ski mask in like the year one aspect? Like there's so much in Batman Begins that, whether I like, sometimes I've always wanted to see that, and there it is. You have to remember that. And in all these different films, like even from Burton to Zack Snyder, there are these moments where it's like, especially for those of us that, read a lot of the source material, it's like, I wanted to see that. And there it is. Thank you. And when Christian Bale came in, I think he just finished Prestige, and he was talking about having read The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger was, I think, cast a couple months later, another one, right? And he was a cool guy. He's very, he was into every little detail I was doing. What's that? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Like very method. And I enjoyed that, like his interest. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
What are you doing there?
Yeah, no.
At least you didn't get yelled at.
Well, you know what?
Good for you. You're gonna cast my fucking leg.
Hey, I've been on sets. There's some people that need to get yelled at, so there's always context. You know what I mean? Yeah. When that video came out, or the audio anyway, that kind of went around a bit. I'm like, it's context. It's with everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like you said, the fighting stuff on, but even like the fighting in like in Burton's in the first one in the alleyway. It's like I liked all that. It's just kind of like, it's just cool. Like for me, the whole thing is, I want fights instead of armor, because my Batman, the one that I loved as a kid and still do, the source material one, like he's so good at fighting, he doesn't need the armor. He's like a Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. Oh, you got a knife? Oh, you got a gun? My bare hands, I'm still gonna kick your ass.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why, like the warehouse scene, it's gonna be hard to top it, so you just don't go for it. But I'll tell you this. Unexpectedly, while watching Reeves's Batman trailer, that little smackdown that he does on that dude, I cheered.
Yeah.
I still love the warehouse scene, but it's like, hey, I don't know if Pattinson's going to be able to do it. I don't know about that. Okay, just watch that 10 seconds over and over again. It's like, yeah, it's okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Super brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something like that feels like that could be a result of the bar set by the BVS stuff. Like that warehouse scene. It's going to make everyone else after that think, okay, we have to step up Batman's physicality now.
Well, if we've learned anything as of late, especially with you guys, and you've been behind the Zack Snyder cut, I follow you guys. They have to listen to the audience. Mm-hmm. And now we know for a fact, like, when they talk about director cuts and this and that, it's like, look, it goes back to Richard Donner. People may not know that they filmed the first two Superman movies at the same time. Mm-hmm. And before they finished the second one, they fired Richard Donner from directing and hired someone else to do it. And then later, Richard Donner got his director's cut. Like, these sort of things happen all the time. But it's just never known about, right? It's just politics behind the scenes. Like, I see it a lot. Change directors. Look at Solo. Look at Rogue One. Rogue One, they invest a different director. They do pickup shots. 300 million becomes $1 billion. On Solo, they bring in Ron Howard. 300 million becomes 360 million. Some work, some don't. It happens a lot, but it was nice to see the momentum behind what was going on with the Snyder cut.
Historic, right?
It's just like having been part of, like having worked on the films and knowing the people involved, it felt good. Because, we're involved a long time ago when, like, okay, I didn't like the show going to England, but I understand why. You get tax breaks and you get like Reeves is out there because the architecture is different. You don't want it to look like Chris Nolan's Chicago. We're in Scotland. Look at the different, like there are reasons. It's not always obvious. But that said, it's you hire someone, you let them finish.
Yeah.
And also, like, to me personally, when I saw the Snyder cut, I felt like it was the piece of the puzzle that validated the previous stories and made everything better for me. Even back to Aquaman, you know, I'm thinking about like it just changed my whole perspective, and it just made everything else make sense. You know, that's the beauty of it. And you know, from what we know, we're not moving forward with that, but that was the piece of the puzzle that kind of molded everything together. And obviously it validated the stories of Cyborg and also Flash, but that was what we were missing for all these years. Like it was such a incomplete piece. And if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't have had this. So I think this is setting a precedent for the future. And also what you were saying before, like with these whole reshoots, a lot of this is fan driven as well. And without us and our voice, we inspire the creators to kind of move forward and make this what it should be. So like you said, Star Wars Rogue One, that was more of a corporate thing, but they reshot pretty much the whole movie because of, you know, what they thought. So now with technology and social media, I think people are a lot more cognizant to that. And it's going to be something that's going to happen more in the future, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll second guess the replacement idea a little more. You know, Robin was talking about the fight scene in the warehouse in BVS and ripple effects that come from events. It's like you watch that movie and you think, oh, they like Batman kicking ass. Yeah, newsflash. That's what we do. Right? And then it's like, wow, the Snyder cut got a huge response. It's like, so they like these guys to be able to finish their visions? Yes, we do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even with BVS, they did an ultimate version, which was 4 hours, and they had to fix that as well, and that made it better.
Right. It's tough too. It's, you know, because like one of my favorite directors is Ridley Scott. And he's always got director cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to like, Ridley, are you allowing this? Are you like, you know, like I work on these films, but I don't know the politics. Like, why was BVS edited? And then why is there an ultimate? Like, you know, you could have cut Doomsday out of the ultimate. I know they wanted Superman to end the way it did. I get it at the end of the film. But maybe the ripple effects from the Snyder cut is like you hire someone, let them tell their tale.
The one thing that I'm surprised didn't ripple yet anyway is I was sure there it was obvious for a long time how much support there was for the Snyder cut. And when it finally did happen, because of that support, it was obvious that the money was going to be there. You know, then you could see if you look in the figures how huge a thing it was for HBO Max. Like it was the biggest increase that any streaming service had in subscribers and download sessions. But what had to be the second part of that was people had to like it. And when that came out, we did see how great the reviews were, and definitely compared to the Justice League. The reviews were fantastic and people love this. So, okay, so it made a shitload of money and people like it. Why are you not yet announcing? Like so far, they've still just said, no, there isn't going to be any more of this. Why? The money is there and people like it. Why are we not continuing?
Well, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say they purposely buried some of the ability to know the full scale of how much money it made off subscriptions as well as streams, because they withheld the numbers until Godzilla came out. And then they said that all that was from Godzilla versus Kong. So they're purposely suppressing information on how successful it was for a reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of those games, unfortunately. I mean, sometimes you learn about that kind of shit and you're like, I mean, you know, like the one thing about the Snyder cut, like for myself, is like I wanted more Batman, but when they're doing the Justice League, I know it's going to be minimized. You know, it's more about the group. I wanted, you know, there's no warehouse scene for me. There's not like that scene where Batman just does his thing. Yeah. It was more like, I'm the one that got these guys together. That's cool because that's the whole point of the Justice League, right? But what the Snyder Cut did for me was I wasn't looking forward to the Flash movie before. Now I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I really, like, I don't understand how you, like, the scene that they cut, you know, with the hot dog and the car and the truck. And
Yeah.
it's like, he was so good. Like, I did not like him, Ezra, too much in the other cut.
Yeah.
But in the Snyder Cut, when it ended, I'm like, okay, I know Batmen are in the Flash movie, but now I'm interested in the Flash movie. You know, and with the Cyborg too, it's kind of, you had an idea that he was meant for more, but him and his dad were a big, huge part of the heart of that film. You know, and so it's nice to see that expanded upon.
That whole storyline may have been the whole pinnacle of that story, if you really think about it.
Right.
He stole the show. That's what blew me away. The fact that component was missing. Like, how do you overlook that? You know, and along with Flash, it's given so much more credibility to that character, and also that scene where he saves the girl from under the truck. Like, it's such a symphony and orchestra, and it showcases his ability on what the Flash is, and that wasn't showcased last time. It looked like they almost portrayed him like he had a disability, or he was like just awkward. And this time he became heroic, and that's what made the Flash in this iteration. You know,
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But less of a mutant, more of a hero.
Yeah, like, he was more of a parody last movie, and now he was like, wow, he is. He deserves to be with these other characters this time.
Yeah, and there was a lot of little scenes that, like, through the Snyder Cut, that, you know, like more Aquaman and Bruce, and like they're chatting the water, and, you know, Aquaman disappearing on him, and like like there's little details like that were nice.
Right.
You know, whether they go on further, it, like, you know, personally, I think that you got the Reeves kind of Batverse going, and it's cool. And, you know, you got a Flash movie coming. Like, the only thing, if I cross my fingers and hope for something, it's kind of like maybe they're thinking that they are going to move forward, and maybe they're just forming a plan. And maybe there's more solo films. Like, maybe instead of just skipping to the Avengers, like I feel that they tried to do, maybe just build it up a little slowly. So if they're slowing it down because they're planning that way, and the Flash movie is still happening, maybe that can be good. Because if we get a Batgirl movie with Keaton in it that spins off, and if we get more Batfleck, like, you know, maybe this is all part of a plan, but I just don't have faith in them having a plan.
And even if they don't have the faith in doing big theatrical releases for some of these things, give us a Batfleck HBO Max miniseries or something. You know,
yeah, six episodes, you know?
Yeah, Ben and Jeff Johns had written a script for a Batman movie that Jay Oliva, who ran the DC animation stuff for years, said was the best Batman script he's ever read. Let us see that.
That seemed like poor Ben. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough being part of the circle, and we only heard little things here and little things there. You know, like, hey, I think Ben's going to direct the solo Batman movie, but it's not going to come out till 2018. Like, what? God. Like, I remember some of our conversations back then. It's like, while working on this film in 2014, the idea how far 2018 was away, that we're not getting a solo Batman film for like 4 more years. And now look. Yeah, it's, you know, and it's like maybe the ripple effect that you guys speak of too goes behind the scenes. You know, maybe not just about the movie, like the creators. Like, if you hire someone and they got a vision, well, let them finish it, you know, and maybe they're taking their time picking the directors for that vision. The Flash seems like it's going forward. That's good. Reeves got one in the can. You know, and now as far as the Batfleck stuff, I know they're doing Aquaman 2. They got Flash. They got Shazam. They got Black Adam. I know those movies are all in production because I see little things. I have friends working on most of those movies. You know, I think Aquaman 2 is started. Shazam is filming. Where I'm working did a little something very small on it. So what's that? Shazam. All right, it's on. You know, that's kind of how we hear about stuff, because on the job, things kind of look similar unless you see a cowl. But when you're seeing muscles and stuff, everything looks very similar. The thing about the movies is, like, I'm just hoping that they get a plan. I want them to have a plan, because then when you're in it, it doesn't matter. Like, just have don't try so hard to work towards the end game. Maybe that's difficult for them to do, but just a movie at a time's fine by me. And if you get an idea that, like, hey, we're going to do a Flash movie, but this time Cyborg's in it. Okay. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the movie that came before.
Yeah, exactly. And learn from some of the past experience. When you hire someone to make a movie, maybe don't try to meddle with it after the fact, because you've seen how your track record is for that. Every time you meddle with something, it doesn't do so hot. And then when people get to see the original version of it, they like that a lot more. So, okay, maybe we don't meddle with this one. Give people the one that they're going to like.
Yeah. I mean, my generation, my favorite films, Blade Runner and The Thing, and they both did shit at the box office. So it's kind of like, you know, and these days, like, they made Blade Runner 2049. I love that movie. Didn't make money. I'm like, I hate that that's part of the narrative. Like, sometimes this, like, and I understand why you want the money and the returns, but sometimes you concentrate so much on the returns that, you know, they change direct. Like, all of these decisions that happen is because they are so focused on the box office.
Yeah, and especially the last, but under 10 years, this number has been applied to movies that, you know, that everything is expected to reach this $1 billion box office amount, and if it doesn't reach $1 billion, it's a failure.
Right, so crazy.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for a while. I remember, I think when I was working on Sin City, A.V. Arad came into K&B, and Batman Begins had just come out. I loved it. I didn't want to hear anything other, you know. I don't talk Batman at work, but I'll never forget A.V. Arad came in. He was talking to a few people, Nick Otero, about a future project, this and that. And he brought up Batman Begins in a conversation with a circle of people. And he said, yeah, it only did this. What a failure. And I want, you know, again, it's hard to be like, don't say a word. And I'm turning around looking at him, and I'm like, it's what I've been waiting for. Like, at least the origin and the year one stuff. Like, come on, dude. Not everything, but it's a business, and the mentality is there. So you can go about the business smartly. Just, you know. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what they do. I want to see more Ben Affleck Batman. I understand if he's burned out from it, and maybe just, you know, seeing the love that he gets from just getting a little more. Hopefully that makes him feel good. You know,
so.
Maybe there'll be another Batman. I'm okay. Like, even Pattinson. Let's just see him. It's like judging Pattinson's now is no different than people going no to Ben being cast. You know,
and
not everybody.
As everyone's saying no to Heath Ledger being cast as Joker.
Yeah, and Mr. Mom is Batman, right?
Yeah.
History repeats itself. It's kind of funny that way. It does. It's so weird. Like, I guess I just talk to a lot of people within the shops, and I'm like, look, I grew up on comic books, and there was different artists and different story arcs, and then there was Legends of the Dark Knight and Shadow of the Bat, Batman, Detective Comics. And I was one that hated crossovers. Like, when they did the whole, like, Nightfall, Night Quest and all that, I hated that I had to go buy a Catwoman magazine to find out where the story was going. I know that's nerd chatter, but, like, I like things bottled up. And so when they start talking about universes, I'm like, I don't mind if they tie together. But I love that they take the stories, like, you know, like, even when I'm following your podcast, sometimes I got to wait because, you know, I haven't read White Knight 2 yet. Because I wait for things to get assembled. Like, I like one shots. I like binging.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I've always been that, like, since I started working a lot, like in my younger days, it's easier for me just to sit down and read it beginning to end. And just with the internet, it's tough not to know things. It's really tough.
Yeah. And then if you've seen some spoilers for things, it can take the wind out of your sails for getting around to reading. You're like, well, maybe I won't bother reading that today since I already know how it ends.
Yeah, a little bit. I think my older self is getting much better at it. Like, you know, if you're going to be that pissy about it, just take a couple hours and read the darn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll be curious to see where they go. It's been fun working on them. I mean, you know, it's like Sin City, I got to meet Frank Miller, and it's like kind of like, hey, dude, thanks. You know, it's like, oh, hey, it's great. You know,
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm still waiting for the Joker. You know, I just I'm not a fan of the Leto look. Maybe maybe he can do it as an actor. Sure, you never know, but I don't know. I'm hoping they sneak it into. I had some friends of mine that I've worked for in the past that worked on Reeves's Batman. So they did the Penguin. So I keep reaching out to him and asking for hints, like any white face, you know, any white faces yet? Any white faces? Because he did Mike Marino is the guy that owns the shop, and his company's name is Pro Rent-Effects. So they did like Coming to America 2. They did makeup in the Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker. The like, you know, when Arthur kind of went nuts with the white face in his apartment when he had the visitors.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
Yeah.
So there was some damage on the taller clown.
Yeah, Lee Gill was one of those guys. We had him on the show before.
Right. The one that watched and couldn't reach the that great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much of it was just Joaquin ad-libbing?
Yeah, I just like, for me, it's like, even that, it's like, you know, if they do something like that like, if you could have the emotional connection, then I'm like, okay, I don't need to see the perma white.
Yeah.
You know, like even Heath, it's like, you know, he's great. He's fine. You know, it's like, I'm a fan, but also it's just like, entertain my ass, you know, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I have to feel like if Reeve is going to bring in a Joker into what we're feeling from his world already, it's gonna be just what he's doing with Riddler, how dark his Riddler is. His Joker he's gotta be like a 7 level kind of Joker.
I'm thinking that Reeves is well familiar with Lieber and Mayhew's work.
Mm-hmm.
That was the direct vibe that I got from just seeing his initial suit. I thought Lee, and during a couple months ago, we had Lee on there and we had like a reaction, and you know, we even asked him, like, do you think that there's a lot of inspiration from your suits? And you know, he acknowledged that, but there's definitely a component where it's a little Mod Podge, but I see a lot of that Damned and also Noel references to the chest panel in itself screams Lee Bermejo to me.
Yeah. Also the importance of, like, even like Anton First got, like, Gotham needs a certain gothic feel to it for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and the backgrounds are important. I like artists that take the time, like Kelly Jones is good at that as well. And Jim Lee every once in a while would sneak it in, like, give me some depth. And so with Reeves filming in Scotland and parts of like where he's at on location makes me think that he's going for it as well. You know, you shoot things in Chicago and Pittsburgh, you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
Right. It's a whole different aesthetic. And
right.
Hopefully the plan is there's a trilogy, and that just gives us that whole platform just to expand more rogues. It gives us more Batman for the next 8 years. You know, that's what we need. It's been a while.
It's been a long time, man. It's been a long time. He's been working on that movie for I know there's been a pandemic and everything. You know, and that said, I hope you fellas and your families and everybody's doing good, because it's been one hell of a year, right?
We're going on a year and a half, you know, but obviously things are looking better, but it's been a good 14 months, and
I know you talk about a little bit about how like people just can't let go of, certain people, they can't, Ben Affleck's their Batman, they want nobody else, Jared Leto, they can't, well, I mean, not Jared Leto, what's his name? Heath Ledger, they don't want anybody else for Joker. But there was this like supposed, I mean, it was nowhere else but on, I think, Twitter, so you knew it was bogus. But there was this supposed leak of information from the set of the Batman where apparently like, what's his name? Some on-set person was reporting that Robert Pattinson had slept with Zoe Kravitz on top of the Batmobile, and that Matt Reeves had caught them personally. And it was literally, I mean, it was so obviously fake because it was definitely somebody who's like this hardcore Zack Snyder, Ben Affleck fan was just trying to inject this bogus story to make it sound like Rob Pattinson was going to get fired and like they were going to, and Matt Reeves was threatening to quit and like storm out. But it's just so funny the lengths fans will go to like try to hold on to dear life, like for the one iteration of a character that they want. And, but yeah, man, I'm kind of with you now. It's like these things can all coexist on different timelines and different dimensions. And so it's cool, man. Like, I mean, I think that we're spoiled now. We have like just a couple of, months ago, maybe it was last year, we're like, oh my God. Until it got pushed back, the Batman and Justice League Snyder Cut is going to come out in the same year. Like, holy crap, it's going to be amazing. Because you're getting, everybody gets what they want. You're getting a little bit of Ben Affleck. If you want something new and fresh, you got some of the Robert Pattinson stuff. So you can't really complain when things are. And now, if you're a Michael Keaton fan, you're getting his little sliver of whatever's going to happen in the Flash. So it's like, it's a good time to kind of dip. The fact that I hope that's the one thing the studio takes is like fans can handle multiple iterations at the same time in film. So like they're going to buy the ticket. They're going to stream the film. They're going to pay for it. So give it to us. I hope that's something that continues on, but who knows?
Yeah. Fan service is okay.
Yeah.
Like it seems like sometimes people come around to it, and then some guys, like producers or directors, they think that they gotta like, I can't copy the source material. I have to make my own statement. It's like, no, it's okay to give them what they expect.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's okay. It's like, like Marvel is just Marvel's thing. It's like the comic books. They've always had a different type of thing for me. That's why I never read the books. And when people compare like superhero, like, isn't like, I got friends watching the Superman and Lois show on TV and they say it's fine. So bring back Henry. It's okay. Like out of this whole thing, I guess I'm most upset about like just Henry and Ben. If there's anything that Snyder, I thought like his casting of the Trinity was just spot on.
Yeah.
The rest of it,
sure.
like I can give or take. Like I don't mind it. I worked with Momoa a couple times. He's a really nice dude, and I kind of see him as Aquaman now. And Ezra, especially after the Snyder cut, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of curious to see more Flash, maybe like more of what was intended. But I really want to see more like Henry and Ben, because you know what I mean? It's like, I know we got a lot of them so far, but it's kind of like they're really good. And I would love for that to continue, like what Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. got with Marvel, and maybe they will. I mean, maybe that's just the ripples haven't set. And, because being in the film industry, I'll tell you, it's been tough because of the protocols and working with actors and, the environments and the PPE because of the COVID and being safe and testing all the time. And a lot of productions are simply waiting until this hurdle is over.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of things that we were talking about like before the pandemic that are now kind of verbally resurfacing for 2022. Mm-hmm. So it's so there's like, that may be part of it too. The reason why we're not hearing too much is just maybe they're just waiting till it's safer and they could not have to worry about so much PPE and shoot where they want and hire the crews, Yeah,
because it really does make everything so much more difficult.
It does. It's hard.
Yeah, there's more gone into the safety of everyone that's on set, and less time available to shoot because of all the safety precautions. So yeah, it makes everything just so much more difficult.
Oh yeah,
And then
going back.
And then when somebody does get sick, then everything has to stop.
Yeah, some different companies are a little different, but some are like, even if you test everybody the next day and everybody's good, you still get a 14-day lockdown. Everybody's, no matter what. It's just, so the apprehension and like, yeah, it's tough, man. It really is. So it kind of makes sense for those that can afford it that are waiting. And, I just hope that maybe the Snyder cut, like you said, it's positive ripples. It's like and they're paying attention to the Snyder cut wouldn't have happened. Lightning in a bottle for AT&T and HBO Max and these people that were making the profit. But maybe it's the slap in the face that Warner Brothers and DC needed too.
Hope so.
It's like that's the only thing you could hope for. It's like learn what worked, pay attention to what didn't work, and then move forward.
Okay, here's a question for you. So,
please.
You loved obviously getting the chance to work on Batman to do that cowl that we all got to see. So say they decided to jump back on and continue this universe. Who's a character that you would love to work on something for that you haven't been able to?
In the Bat universe?
Yeah, in any of it, in the Snyderverse, whatever. Say they were gonna, if they could bring in anyone that you would get to work on that character, who would you like to see and get to work on?
I think because of my creature and movie background, I want a Man-Bat movie.
Yes.
Nice.
I want transformations. I want American Werewolf with a bat and Batman in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I want. I want a horror movie. And I want something that's like creepy, scary, gothic, and like, yeah, I would love to see that. And like, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but we'll see.
That would rule.
And I still want to work. Like even on the BVS, we did a blue material test. Because they're like, you can find pictures. Like there's one of them where it's only at the front of the cowl and it's got more wrinkles in the crow's feet. And it was basically a test mold that we had, and they had like 5 or 6 runs and they were all stacked up. And there's a picture. I think Reeves has one. He sent it to me. And they did a blue run out of it, blue foam latex, just for giggles and ha-has.
Wow.
And I remember looking at it and I'm like, that's something I want to work on. It's not done yet. I want a long-eared blue cow. Yeah. But as far as I think Man-Bat for sure. It's very important. He's so good. And I think Scarecrow can be revisited in a different way.
For sure. If they looked at the treatment of, I know you said you don't play the games, but the treatment of Man-Bat in the Arkham Knight game, that mission with him feels very much like a horror movie. It's complete with jump scares.
Oh, really?
And I think it would work really well.
So, Robin, are you saying that I need to play this game?
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
If you want to be Batman.
I'm afraid. It's like, I don't want to get hooked. That's my problem.
It is a lot of time. You know what? I'll send you a video, because there are people that take video games and turn them into, like, they take all the cutscenes and pertinent gameplay moments and they make movies out of them. And there's one of the Man-Bat story.
That would be so cool. Yeah, I would love to see. A horror movie. And I feel that the Scarecrow and Man-Bat lend themselves to the horror genre.
Yeah.
But, to be completely honest, make something up too.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then, even if they want like something more, like Court of Owls, it's like, there's a story. Like,
that needs to happen one day.
And with the animated movies, there's an opportunity there. But the thing about the animated movies that I don't like is I think they get too creative.
They do.
Like, I don't need to see Batman on the rooftop and Killing Joke. Okay. And I never saw Gotham by Gaslight, but someone told me that, well, it's not Jack the Ripper, it's so and so, and I was like, why would?
Yeah, they completely changed that one. Like every rogue you can think of is in the Gotham by Gaslight animated movie.
Right.
But yeah, they take too many liberties with those stories. I know what you mean.
It seems like the perfect platform to explore these movies on a maybe a smaller budget and a higher frequency, and not having to worry about conflicting actors at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It just, like with their live action, it's like, if you're going to do that story, just do that story.
Yeah. You're starting with some good questions, Robin. I think we need to go into the lightning round because there's more questions I feel like are just like that we can get Rob to answer.
Oh, please.
Let's go with favorite M&M. Peanut butter. I'm sorry. Peanut or regular?
Or peanut butter.
Or peanut butter.
Peanut. I'm a peanut M&M guy.
Peanut. Okay.
Yes.
Favorite Batman movie soundtrack. Favorite Batman movie soundtrack.
89. Destiny, like Descent into Mystery.
Yeah.
How
many times have you thrown that on while you're driving home?
Right behind that, Beautiful Lie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
I
awesome.
really like. Yeah, those two.
Even Man of Steel.
And also you can't forget about Kiss from a Rose, but that's like the bronze.
Well, see, having worked on that film, that was our cleanup. Like every day at work, someone thought it was a good thing to, like, when we cleaned up at the end of the day, that was our song.
It was already known that was like the song from the movie.
Oh yeah,
man. All right.
We get the soundtracks in advance. Remember, the movie's done way before you see it in the theater. So is the music.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so it's like we had Smash It Up,
That's the Offspring, right?
Offspring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before
you see the movie, you know the music.
Yeah. We grew up in that era. We're 80s to 90s kids, but that was such an amazing time growing up. Just getting those soundtracks and just having them associated with our favorite movies was something that really doesn't happen too much right now.
Yeah, I would imagine Batman Forever in your eyes is much different than in my eyes.
Well, Teases was just sipping out of a Batman Forever McDonald's collectible glass. Actually.
Oh, cheers! Oh, cheers!
Oh shit!
Yeah, I mean, I think Batman '89 came out when I was in the second grade, so that was definitely my favorite, and also Batman Returns. It's funny. My daughter jumped in before, and I told her who you were, and she's only 8 years old, and her favorite movie is Batman and Robin. And she said, "Tell him what my favorite movie is." I was like, all right. But as a kid, that you get everything out of that movie, visually and like storytelling, and you get all the rogues, and I can understand why that's her favorite. Yep. And to me, it's, obviously like 89 and Returns is my go-to, but I can see visually why it's so appealing to someone so young.
Well, I think that's who it was marketed towards, and
big time.
That's. I mean, she's right in that 2-year age group that movie was made for.
Yeah.
So
I think she's seen it by herself. She's seen it about 18 times.
Set story aside. But I will fight to the death for the visuals. It's a toy commercial, so like. The gadgets, the suits, the Batmobile, like I still think that looks cool to me. They have that stuff on display at the studio tour, and they have it out for a reason because it looks cool still, regardless of the story. So,
yeah, aesthetically, it's really fun.
But Rob, it's funny. I'll defend Batman Forever to the death, even with all its faults as far as story. I'll still defend that movie. I think probably because at the time when it came out, that was the first Batman movie that I remember I bought my own ticket for. And that I bought toys for. And so, I think there's a little obvious nostalgia, but there's parts of that movie that I think are like the way that they explore the psychology of being Batman. Like I really like that. So,
Well, yeah, well, it's all about like context too. It's like I know a lot of times people like to like just pick one and they prioritize things. I'm like, well, Adam West, I grew up on that, and Burgess Meredith is still the best Penguin.
Yeah.
For me, because people talk about Danny DeVito, I'm like, it doesn't mean that I don't like Danny DeVito. It's just like when you guys are talking about these films in the 90s, they are exactly what they needed to be at that time. You know, Batman Forever, if you toned down Jim Carrey a little bit, maybe the movie would be more my cup of tea.
Yeah.
You know, and they cut out our big bat that, you know, so that was a going joke in our shop at work was riddle me this, riddle me that. Why is McDonald's afraid of our bat?
Yeah. You know, have you seen that there's a push for release the Schumacher cut?
Oh, our bat's going to get back in it, isn't it?
That's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest things is they, you know, because that deleted scene is out there, so people are posting it, reposting it. And one of the things that I see the most is a screenshot of that scene where he's in the Batcave, and you know he stumbles upon that. So, yeah, there's a hashtag release the Schumacher cut. They call it the Red Book edition.
The Red, because of Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne's book. Right?
Yeah, his dad's journal, I guess.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, bring it. Why not? They do it for all these other films.
Yeah. But
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of already answered it, but Panther Suit and Sonar Suit, or Clooney Suit and Arctic Suit.
The Panther cowl is one of my favorite cowls. So Panther wins.
Yeah.
If you add leather texture to the Panther cowl, I'm like, yeah, but it's a little too polished, but the form is it's Neil Adams. That long eared. Yeah. Love the Panther. Jose nailed that cowl.
Was it the same team that did the Sonar stuff?
Yeah, that was just kind of added on stuff later, you know, like toys and different, you know. We have to have another suit. Okay. What's going to happen? I don't know. And then like with the Clooney, like I think Clooney's suit's the same, and then they just did a new cowl. And then I think Jose, like Miles Teves, did the Robin suit sculpture for Batman Forever, and then Jose, because they didn't need to redo Clooney's main suit, Jose did the Robin Nightwing suit in Batman and Robin. And then the silver things were appliances on the old like tech suit, I think, right? They were just like little things that, like, they didn't redo the entire suit. They added and glued down sections and painted them silver.
It looks like armor. Like I think that's what they like. I don't know. It looks like an Arctic. They wanted to go with the Arctic Blast Kenner suit.
Yeah, I mean, they're like if I'm the guy that says that they should relax and have some more fun with it, then I got to take what they give me in that arena. You know, if you want more comic book, it's like, especially with Batman Forever, like even like with the glow in the dark, like makeups and effects, like that was kind of not as popular and hard to do back then. So like, you know, that alley sequence where you had Dick Grayson take the Batmobile, and you go in there with like the glowing set pieces and the glowing faces, and like that wasn't easy to light and to do. That's it was a huge thing. I had friends that were on set with that. And they're like, you should see it. The whole set's glowing in the like straight out of a comic book.
Yeah.
Maybe at that time, because you know, comic book movies weren't what they are now. Like I think that was too comic booky for the 90s. Yeah. Like if you deliver a movie like Batman Forever now, where comic books, now they're accepted and they're cool popular culture. Maybe the response is different. You know, like I watch Marvel movies, and I think my favorite Marvel movies are like the Ant-Man movies. You know, Ant-Man and the Wasp, like the little capers. I'm sure like Jim Carrey and all that, they would be fine right now.
Yeah, especially with the Marvels, like Thor. You know, the last Thor movie was so silly.
Right, but that's a comic book, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, to me, anyways, it's like I don't read a lot of comics. I have a particular favor that I like. You know, the Batman stuff. But it's like there's obviously an audience that likes the other stuff. I just don't think the 90s was quite ready for it yet. But like you guys said, your kids are the judge. You know, put the movie on, put your kids in front of it, and what happens? 18 times, he said?
Does this age well after 25 years, or, you know, like, that's the real consensus. Like, will it have a legacy? Not because of us, it's because of them, you know?
I bet you 10 years from now, people will watch Schumacher before Nolan.
Oh, man. You're really upsetting the coalition of Nolaners with that one. They're gonna have
It's interesting though to think about how movies might have done if they came out in different times. Like, you know, if you think about BVS itself came out in the age of the Marvel movie formula, and was not accepted by so many people who believed that what the Marvel movies do is what a comic book movie is supposed to be. What if that had come out, you know, 10 years before the Marvel movies started? Or
it's like, and also, like, you know, for instance, at Ironhead, like when we were working on BVS, another thing that happened is, like, as the whole Civil War was being done, and after I finished BVS, I left and was working at a different studio, and Jose called me and he's just like, "Hey, I need you to come and do a life cast." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "You come over Wednesday after work?" And I'm like, "Sure." And when I got there, it was Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And so we did his hand cast, his feet cast, and his head cast. And then afterwards, you know, I looked at Jose and I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "Black Panther's in Civil War. And rumor has it that Spider-Man's coming in quick too." It's like, what's going on? It's like, well, it's, you know, part of what we were hearing was Robert Downey Jr. is a little upset that Chris Evans has become the face of Marvel. So the next Captain America film, they're going for it. All the chips got pushed in. So it seemed like BVS and Civil War were both like kind of up in their ante as they were making it, knowing what the other person was doing. You know, because it seemed like it was all kind of going on at the same time, and maybe competing with Marvel was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah,
maybe
it's just a whole different. It's just a whole different animal. You know, you just have to focus on what you do best.
But, like, you know, maybe there's something to be said. Like, if Aquaman's solo movie can make $1 billion, maybe people do like the solo films. You know, and maybe what the Snyder cut opens up the door to a successful Flash movie. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see more Cyborg. You know, I'd love to see more Ben, but I could definitely see them putting more Cyborg. And the Flash film with the Batman added characters, and with what I saw in the Snyder cut, the Flash film has a good, like, if they do those solo films and nail them, they can build the universe back up.
For sure. Right.
They just have to remember that before, you know, they had Avengers, they had, 5-6 years of solo films. Like, it took time.
Right.
You know? So don't rush it, and it'll be worth it, you know? I don't want, like, I never thought that a solo Batman film made by Matt Reeves would take, 7 years, but... Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be interesting. I just, like you said, Tom, it's like we're getting some good stuff, and instead of nitpicking it, maybe just appreciate it and enjoy it. And like, you know, like I grew up a kid in the 70s where, you know, before you can watch movies at home, like they'd bring them back the next summer to the theater, right? So like when, you know, like when Empire Strikes Back was coming to the theater that summer, like in the springtime, like a month before, they brought back Star Wars. So you get to see the movie again, and they were building up their hype. You know, I named that because when I was a kid, that was kind of like movies that had sequels. That was kind of like the only one in town besides Jaws, you know, because now it's a thing. But I think people just, you know, it is what it is. And if you don't like it, it's okay. And if someone else likes it, it doesn't mean that they suck or their opinion is like any lesser than yours. It's like everything's very like competitive now, instead of just like, if you dig it, you dig it, you know. Like when we were growing up, who do you like? Mazzucchelli. It's like, yours are too short. Kelly Jones for the win. I'm like, Mazzucchelli's awesome. It's like black and gray. He's like, Kelly Jones's ears are better. It's like, they're too long. How's he gonna fit in the car? these were friends. We were having these chats, and it was okay. You know?
real problems. It's like shit.
Yeah, it's like enjoy that kind of stuff. I just think maybe they're taking him a little too seriously, but maybe it's because there's billions of dollars at stake.
Right.
And that's got to be tough. Like in the end, I'm just whether it's high on my list of favorite films or not. I'm happy that Snyder got to like go back, revisit. Because I had a lot of friends work on those films. At the top list too. Like as a production designer. Like everything you saw, it's like, Snyder's directing it, but also, a friend of mine designed a lot of that stuff. So a lot of those scenes and the backgrounds and the elements that are visual, well, the director works, hand in hand with the production designer on what you see with the art director. So like all of that added stuff that was missed, like my friends, a lot of it was their art that they were hired by Zack to do. So there's a lot of people that got to say, hey, years later, you get to finally see my work. So across the board, that's cool. I know a lot of the focus is like, hip, hip, hooray for Zack, which is cool. But, there's hundreds of people that worked on a lot of stuff that's now in the film that can now watch it and go, before it was on the cutting room floor, didn't make the cut. Maybe now look, you can see my work because I worked long and hard. Like if they do the Red Book version of Batman Forever, you can see the bat.
Yeah, there has to be, what it's all about is there's just so much emotional attachment to that as an artist. And for you to finally see it on film gives that person that gratification as opposed to just having the director take all the accolades for that.
Right. And, for Zack, there's a lot of personal things. There's a lot of emotions involved. And I can't imagine, like he's got to feel pretty goddamn good right now. Because, the only, in a very, very small, minute fraction of it, like even when someone says, hey, you worked on BVS? Yeah, that fucking suit was badass. Like, I didn't really, okay, I molded muscles, but that doesn't mean I put the suit together. That doesn't mean I made the fabric. Okay, I molded the emblem. I kind of worked on the cowl with my friend Jim, and then Jen, she did the fabrication of the inside of the cowl, putting the skull cap in there. Most of it's all Jose. Like we're all an army led by one who has and then he's got a leader. Sometimes it's just good to know that what you spent time on is it's appreciated after time.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of what we worked on is you talked about it too, like how things age.
Right.
I work on a lot of things that got forgotten. You saw that resume. It's like nobody talks about 98% of it. But like when people talk about Batman, like, Pattinson, they released a picture. Like, I don't dislike it that much, but it kind of feels good when people are like, Batfleck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely in that batch.
Well, yeah, it's hard to compete with something that looks straight from the page, especially if you're one that spent a lot of time reading those pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference. It's like, a lot of these guys that have an opinion, it's like, when's the last time you read a comic book? Not that your opinion matters less. I'm just saying my perspective is different.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they looked at your, go ahead.
You mentioned how much gets ignored and like how much of your resume, like, the things that we have talked about so far versus the things that wouldn't come up. I wonder how many times people watch something and don't realize that something they're seeing is a mold, like we talked about Jeffrey Dean Morgan in Watchmen. Like people don't realize that he had a muscle suit under there, making him look like a comedian. And
right.
before we got you on, Tom and I were talking earlier, and we were debating what you had maybe done in Meet the Fockers.
Oh, there was. I think it was a mold of that's the one where Robert De Niro had the breast feed?
Oh my God! No way! Is that what
Tom called
it? Yeah, and actually, the funniest part is my fiance Beth Hathaway, who she's in her own right goes all the way back to Edward Scissorhands and Jurassic Park. Like she's been in the film industry since the late '80s. She assembled the fake breasts on the fabric with Velcro and pump mechanism for Mr. De Niro to wear. So yeah.
That is awesome.
It's always but the stories are so odd and weird. Like even like Sin City, right? I got to meet Frank Miller, and then the next day, so what's going on? Well, Robert Rodriguez is coming to town, but his band is playing at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, right? Or the House of Blues. That's the place that used to be there. So his band's playing at the House of Blues. Greg Nicotero takes the 3 designs. We did a forehead, nose, and then different cheeks and chin. The makeup is 2 pieces, but we did A, B, and C option for each. We put him in Greg Nicotero's car. He drives into Hollywood, the House of Blues. So after Robert Rodriguez is playing guitar on stage, he gets together with Greg. They have a few drinks, and they decide what the makeup design for Marv is. Like, that's how this stuff happens.
Wow. So funny.
Like, it's crazy sometimes.
It's very cool that you've worked with Nicotero too. I've been a big fan of his for a long time because he comes straight from Savini.
Oh yes, oh yeah, yeah. He's like when it comes to the Savini and the Romero and he's like the number. Like I think it's awesome that Walking Dead happened for him because it's kind of like he is the zombie guy.
Yeah.
Like every time, like, it's like we were working on other stuff, and like Sin City was a cool show, but comic books aren't really, Greg's thing. He was always a zombie guy. So like when this comes through, it's kind of like, it just makes sense, Yeah. And working over there was fun. We did like a Transformers movie. We did like Island, like a Michael Bay movie there. And, Narnia, worked on a couple Narnia films with big minotaurs and a bunch of fantasy animals. And, it was fun working over there, but yeah, meeting Frank Miller kind of like, when you look back, especially after time, like these little moments, it's like, we're working on Sin City. Yeah. Frank Miller's in the shop. Batman. What about Sin City? Batman. It's like, are you going to be okay? You're not going to squid out on him. I'm like, I'm going to be okay. God. Well, it's tough, man. It's really tough. Like, sometimes like doing your job, like when you meet people like that, they're just people and they like to be treated normally. Sure. Like meeting, like when we met Batfleck, it's like, we had no idea, like what we see now, we had no idea.
Yeah.
The only thing we knew is like, wow, he's pretty tall. He likes Batman a lot. The sketches on Jose's wall look pretty neat. I mean, it would be cool to see it black and gray, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's kind of like year one. All right. Maybe, and we'll see what happens. And then years later, you look at it and like even people that booed him before it, it's nice to see them saying, well, can we have more, please? Yeah. And I'm sure that, I hope Ben sees that and that helps him just, even if he doesn't come back, just know that, well, you put in the time and the right people, the people that were meant to receive that and appreciate it did. Because that's the other thing too. Like when you make these projects and you think you're going to make $1 billion, you just expect everything that like everybody's going to love it. And maybe that's the wrong way to go about it. I understand why they do, because making $1 billion is great, but you know what I mean? And then they start following actors around and hopping over fences and chasing them in his car. Yeah.
I can't stop picturing you being in a blockbuster, 10 years ago or whatever, and someone says, oh, let's meet the Fockers, and you just go, oh, I worked on that. Oh, what'd you do? I made a boob.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the hardest part for me is going into comic book shops or like eavesdropping on, like when I'm in there and they start comparing like the movie this and movie that, and then they start talking about what they heard.
Oh,
like, it's kind of, especially if you know the truth, and you got to like, sometimes you just don't engage. Like, you know what I heard on set? I heard this. I heard this person said that. And you're like, oh, I'm glad you think that. Okay. Like, on the BVS thing, it was funny. Like you see all these pictures that were like old fuzzy black and whites. This is Ben Affleck and his Cowl. It's a leaked photo. No, it's not. Are you going to tell them it's not? No, I'm just going to let these people believe whatever they believe. Yeah. And then the first picture, Zack, I really wish that we had an iconic, like gargoyle standing Batman as the first picture instead of the pouty picture.
Yeah.
Sad
Yeah.
man.
Well, yeah, because it's like we
Sad
waited
fleck.
we waited for so long for everybody like to see what we made, and then it became a meme. We're like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah, I still thought it was badass.
Oh, he looks great, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, like that like they finally in the in Justice League, like when Gordon looks up and you see him up there on the gargoyle and he's standing there in the dark. That's kind of cool. Those little images, right? Batman moments.
Yeah.
So it's Chicago or New York pizza.
There you go. Yeah, getting back to it. I forgot we're in the middle of the lightning round.
Yeah, that was a not so quite lightning round.
Nice transition.
No, because there was a part of me that was like, I'm no Kelly Jones or Lieber Hamo or like Paul Dini. It's like these guys. Do I get to do the lightning round?
Yeah, man. Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get to it, man. What is it? Deep dish or New York style?
Having had both, and the New York style wins.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, you live on the West Coast, so like it's really hard. You got to find a place, man, that does good pizza. Because I just had.
You got to go there. You have to go there.
I just had Little Caesars and I almost cried into it.
Yeah, watching Little Caesars is if you're gonna watching Little Caesars. What I was gonna say was eating Little Caesars is kind of like watching what do you call the Whedon cut?
the Justice League.
The Justice
League. Yeah. Like when you hit play, you know what you're getting into. Dude.
Yeah.
You ordered Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's another lightning round? Oh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, Robin, what are some other ones that we normally throw out there? I'm drawing a blank. I keep thinking about.
It's been a long time, but the whole Shake Shack In and Out. But
oh my God!
I already know the answer for him. So
I don't know. I think Shake Shack's got better fries. Because like it's so weird though. Like I was, Beth is working out in Atlanta, and I went out there in April just to visit. She's been out there on a movie for a while, and when I was out there, a guy asked me, "Where are you from?" L.A. And he's just like, "Fucking In-N-Out, man. I'm gonna come out to California. Gotta taste an In-N-Out burger." I'm like, "You're in Georgia and you're going to L.A. and you want to like In-N-Outs that they pocket what?" I'm like, "It's okay. It's a pretty good burger, but yeah, it's way more popular than I thought."
Yeah.
Like outside of California, it's a thing.
Yeah. Well,
but the fries suck.
Yeah, well, unless it's the animal style fries. It's interesting, this whole debate about In-N-Out versus Shake Shack. And I've heard, we just talked about what's real, what's not. I've heard, I can't confirm, but I've heard that Shake Shack meat is made of people. So I don't know.
That's why it's so good.
Do with that information what you will.
I mean, they charge you like $9 a burger. It can't be cow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that like if you're not from LA and you don't see the In-N-Out lines, like it's a going joke with Beth and I because every time we drive by an In-N-Out and the line is so long that it's affecting traffic on every street.
Yeah.
I just look at people like, why are you waiting for 45 minutes or an hour for an In-N-Out burger? Like, just go home and cook your own or something. It's a phenomenon, and yeah, when someone brought it out and I was on the other side of the country, I was like, wow, it's a real thing. It is. They're good burgers, man. They're good. You know what they do? The smartest thing is In-N-Outs. They minimize the menu. Everything's fresh, and they give it to you quick and it's hot.
Yeah. Right.
And they're consistent. Every time you go there, it's going to be as good as it was the time before. Like, and it's just a small menu, and they do what they do well.
Yeah.
And if you get the French fries, you got to eat them quick because once they cool, nope.
True. How do you dress your hot dog? This is one for the hot dog fans.
I'm a mutsup guy, ketchup and mustard mixed.
Oh, man. Again, you're gonna make some people mad with that ketchup, but okay.
I know.
Yeah, apparently that's a thing. I mean, I don't put ketchup on hot dogs, but apparently it's a thing that a lot of people swear you're not supposed to.
You can get it with the relish. The sweetness, if you want it, you get it with the relish. But
is that the? I'm sorry, Tom.
I don't care either way. I'll put cereal on a hot dog. I don't care.
I don't have too many hot dogs, but when I do, I like matzo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you read a Batman comic, and this might not be, I mean, because you've been reading the comic, so maybe it's always been, or it doesn't change, but when you read a Batman comic, whose voice do you hear when Batman speaks?
Kevin Conroy.
There you go.
I knew you were going to say that.
How can you not?
That's what everyone should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, he's on your intro. How cool is that? I mean, I mean, and the other thing, too, with the animated show is, like, Mask of the Phantasm, I saw it in the theater with, like, 3 other people. But, like, I moved to L.A., like, I moved away from home in, like, 1992. So when that show was starting, when you're away from home and you're kind of, like, lonely and whatnot, like, that show happened to become popular at the perfect time where, like, when I'm not working or, like, I could just watch Batman.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like when I was a kid with the TV show. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like I had a distraction. And I think using the black backgrounds was a brilliant idea. Like that's a whole 2-3 hour conversation, just the animated series. And I hear they're bringing that back, right? Someone told me that they're going to bring it back.
That's a rumor.
Yeah,
we're hoping so.
Yeah, it's the team though, man. Sometimes I wonder about Bruce Timm because he had Batman on the rooftop with Batgirl. But it's got to be said,
Yeah.
But like
you should have heard the gasps in the auditorium when they premiered that at Comic-Con.
Yeah, the theater I was in was just like, I think a few of us just looked at each other and went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
See, the thing is, people just weren't prepared to see that, but it is actually canon that did occur. Because in the Batman Beyond continuity, the reason that Dick and Bruce don't speak anymore is that Bruce got Barbara pregnant.
Whoa.
So that's the Bruce Timm canon. But
I guess that makes more sense of it, but that I don't need it. Joke.
Yeah, exactly. But I understand they had to put something in there, but maybe not that, because the Killing Joke isn't really long enough itself to make a full length movie. So they had to put some kind of prologue on there, but yeah, maybe it didn't have to be that exactly.
It's a tough one. Yeah, you take those shorts and you want to go feature. I mean, I get the allure of that, but yeah, I mean, like, even when we're talking about Batman movies now and stuff, like, can we just get Paul Dini to write one?
Yeah, like he showed what he could do not only in the animated series and the comics, but the first 2 Arkham video games he wrote the stories for.
Yeah, Rob, if you're going to start playing the Batman game, start with Arkham Asylum, because Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, those are written by Paul Dini, and that's like playing the animated series.
Yeah, and I ain't got time for that. But
yeah, exactly.
Like I'm just too. Yeah, knock on wood. We're pretty busy now, and it'll be because my career right now, it's like Netflix and HBO Max. It'll be interesting because the thing that what I work on. Usually the budget in the past has had something to do with the box office success, right? Like, I've been hired on movies and we've started, and then the director's previous movie comes out, didn't do well. I'm unemployed. Like, the next job just got yellow light.
Wow.
So I'm curious now because, like, I'm working on what's going to be a very popular character film on Netflix. Like Netflix is trying to check the boxes. You got HBO Max with, obviously they're getting more of a following. But how we don't know the returns, we don't know the cash and subscribers, and how does that turn back to like the producers, and like, does that affect the budget of those of us like me below the line that work on these films? It'll be interesting to see as the theater becomes less of a factor, because even when people go back to the movie theaters, I don't think it'll be like it used to be. Like, I don't think that movies are now going to be like banking on, like, we need to crack 250 opening weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that used to be the T-shirt. That's the meme.
Mhm.
It only made 110. Failure. It had a holiday 5-day weekend. What? Okay. I mean, that's how movies were judged. And like I said, I've been with my toolbox told to go home that movie we were going to make isn't going to happen now because they just released his other film. I mean, it's weird. It's kind of like what happened with BVS Justice League, right?
Yeah.
Like Justice League, they started the movie. They were shooting 3 weeks like after BVS came out. They got cold feet, and then they just now are rebounding.
Yeah.
Like they put too much emphasis on the now. I don't know how box office versus apps. I don't know how the returns affect like My Boss and the effect shops or Jose and Ironhead. Are they still going to get the same kind of budgets and time? And where's the money coming from when it's for an app versus that theatrical release?
Yeah.
Like I haven't read that kind of information, but it's got to, like, you know, the cash has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that lends me to think that a lot of these movies are still going to require the theater.
But I don't know, there's some big budgets going into things like, if you think about the production size on like HBO shows now, like at by the midway point of Game of Thrones, every episode was basically a movie. You know, with the number of people in it, the effects, and just how big everything was.
That's 11 million an episode.
Yeah, they're just going big. Wow. And what
Jesus
the thing that HBO is doing right now is HBO is doing a live action series of the Last of Us video games. That's shooting over here in Canada, and they're saying it's going to be the biggest production ever done in Canada. And we have a lot of shit shot over here too.
Yeah.
But they're saying this HBO show is
like
going to
Hollywood.
be the biggest thing. Yeah.
They're pushing their chips in.
Yeah.
It'll just be interesting to see, like, you know, because like right now I can't help but think that that's part of, like, you know, we talked about like the DC universe, and because of the Snyder Cut, the popularity, the fans, the money, does it create enough cash to influence a continuation to start up quickly?
Yeah.
Because if it was in the theater and it made 750, like, you know, when you get those big box offices, they start the next one pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
Like Aquaman 2, that budget is going to be huge because it made $1 billion. And they're starting now. Like, you know, you got Shazam coming, and then you got Black Adam, separate movies. And, you know, like The Rock is pretty much self-explanatory.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so when you know you could drop that in the theater, and they'll do both. The only thing about the app versus the theater, it's like maybe they shouldn't do it the same day.
Yeah, I think for a while we might see a lot of, you know, comes out in theaters and then a week later. Like that's what they're doing with Zack's Army of the Dead. That's out in theaters this week, and it comes on Netflix next week.
It'll be interesting to see how that does.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends work on that one too. They're pretty excited. Yeah. You know, he seems to be in a good place, so it's good. Yeah. And, you know, fellas like yourself that, you know, you guys were supporting the hashtag, so to speak, for a long time. Like, was it a Subway story? Right?
Man, that's so wild, man. Yeah.
Oh, man.
How we got wrapped into that.
It's so crazy. It's a great story, but it's, you know, it would be nice. It's nice that we got what we got. It would be nice to see more, and we'll see what happens. Because I've tried to figure out those people in charge before, and it hasn't worked out well for me. Yeah,
it's I hope that they're starting to realize that, like you said, you know, there's things that people want to see and they'll pay for it. So why not give it to them? You know,
right?
Yeah,
you know, like even in the Flash movie, like I'm not sure if the plans are to actually have Keaton in a cowl or in a suit. But the idea that if you got him in a suit for 5 seconds, you know, nerd explosion.
Yeah.
That's all. I know they'll probably have him, and then behind him you'll see like a collection of suits and such. But, you know, like there are little things where it's okay to, we're like, hey, Mike, we know we've been talking about money. You're on the project, off the project, on the project. We really want you to put the suit on. It's going to be, you don't have to fight. You don't even have to move. Even if your neck doesn't turn, we apologize. Just stand there and look badass for like 2 minutes. And then that's that.
Yeah.
You know,
they could have him do nothing more than sit in the Batcave and reveal that he is mentoring Batman Beyond, and they can use that to launch a Batman Beyond movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if Batman Beyond has a big fan base, but it's
as big as it's ever been right now. Yeah, like one of the things that I saw, I might have mentioned this on the show just in the last couple of months. I had completely missed this happening, but at some point, his first appearance comic book went from being like a $40 issue to being like a $500-$600 issue.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
I gotta check my rack.
Yeah, right. It was that 6-issue miniseries was his first appearance. But but with how big that is, the animated series of Batman Beyond had a resurgence lately, and the next, you mentioned White Knight earlier, the next volume of White Knight that Sean's doing is a Batman Beyond story.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know, and
so perfect time.
That's another guy that, you know, out there, like the Elseworld kind of tales. I'm so glad that they're embraced. You know, like I really enjoyed like those years where they just explored those different ideas and they were just fine with it. You know, have different looking Batman, have different stories. And does this one link with that one? No.
It's
you know,
own thing.
What Sean Murphy's doing, it's like, you know, again, I'm hoping like the ripple effect. It would be great to see like more disconnected canons and just, if there's an artist and he's got a story to tell, let's see it. And I've always hoped that they would turn that like into the film and TV world as well. You know, I'm waiting, like, especially when I saw Daredevil on Netflix, you know, I was kind of like, I can totally see a Batman show like this.
Yeah. That's what, we've been asking for that for years now, either a Batman like that or a Catwoman series like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like those, like you guys were talking about, like a 10 episode, you know, if HBO is the platform and they want to compete with Netflix, you know, and if they learned anything from their investment, it seems like it paid off for the Snyder Cut. You know, you just have to keep the momentum going, because next year the Snyder Cut won't matter as much as it does now.
Yeah. And HBO likes to follow up success with, you know, something else that picks up where that left. They're already shooting the Game of Thrones prequel series. Yeah,
I got friends working on that one too. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, it's I like the more work the merrier. Different worlds. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, I've always been, you know, like I talked about even with the comic books and the crossovers. I like things all neat and tidy, and like, let me just pick this up and read it. And nope, how does it end? You got to buy that other magazine. What? Well, it's like that in the films too. You know, I have friends that aren't necessarily comic book fans, and they're like, "Well, what's that one?" I'm like, "Well, didn't you see the first movie?" They're like, "Do I have to watch the first movie? I can't watch this." I'm like, pause the movie. Let me explain something to you. You know, and I think the filmmakers, like, sometimes you got to take that into consideration a little bit. You know, so. Anyway,
here's the thing we got to do for the lightning round.
Okay.
We need you to leave a question for the next guest.
I was going to say that.
Oh, shit.
Did Cami Garcia leave one?
Shit, I don't know if did we do a lightning round with her?
I can't remember. Let's just say we didn't.
I don't feel like we got one from her.
So what's a question you want to ask the next possible guest we have on, which potentially, I believe, if it works out correctly, it will be Robin.
Hopefully Jared, but who knows? It could end up being Richard.
True. So somebody that has
BVS.
Yeah, somebody that has either come before or after you in the process, which is pretty awesome.
That's a tough one. That's actually, like, when I listen to the other people that have been asked that question, now I understand why they pause.
Yeah.
Like either Richard or the artist. I don't know. It's a tough one. I know silence on the air. It's deadly.
No,
It's
it's
okay.
all right.
We edit out all the silence. Well, we edit out our silence. We'll leave your silence.
It makes you seem
yeah, contemplative, not so quick
Exactly.
to answer. Let's see. Like Richard's for a stunt. Like if it was Richard, I would say, is there a type of stunt that he hasn't been able to attempt that he would like to?
It's a good one.
Like, because these, you know what I mean? Because maybe there's like, I know he's done a lot of hand-to-hand and been in a lot of creature suits, the werewolf and Cabin in the Woods, especially my friend Norman that made that for him. He was the bat creature in BVS because he knew Steve Wing from Underworld, where he was an actor and a werewolf. Like, he's done a lot of stuff. But that stuntman side of him, other than the creature performer, like if there's, because, sometimes you get safety issues and insurance and we can't put the guy near fire. Maybe as a stuntman, he's like, screw the CGI stuntman. I want to fucking do this. Well, he does stunts. Maybe there's something that, he hasn't done yet and would like to.
Yeah.
And as far as the artist, he's done so much work.
Yeah.
I would keep it simple with Batman. Trunks or no trunks.
There you go.
There we
Okay.
go.
That's a good
Perfect.
one. We'll keep that. Yeah. Man,
You know what
we're
I
gonna
mean?
have to. We're gonna
And
have to have.
The nice thing about you leaving too is we can just use both of them.
Yes.
Sure.
When each of them come up.
Right.
Doesn't matter
Sure.
who's next. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one
Right.
for both of them to answer.
They're good because both are worthy. Richard's
sure.
a good guy and he works fucking hard. And he's also one of those guys that when people watch the Warehouse Teen and all those things, they don't realize it's Richard.
Yeah.
Like we're good at what we do and we just do it behind the scenes. And it's nice when you get recognized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you got to be careful though, because these bat chats like this one, like when Reeves and I talk, we talk for fucking hours, man.
Yeah.
You know what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to bring both you guys on at the same time, just to sit back and let you guys go off, because I think that's some cool stuff to hear. We're definitely. I mean, we're gonna have you back regardless, because, like I said, man, I was talking to these guys. I'm like, we're not gonna be able to, like, we're gonna scratch the surface of your work, and we're probably gonna go bat heavy, but there's so much more that you've done that it's like impossible to do in one episode. So we're gonna have to time it up so we can do something like that and have you back, because yeah, dude, we could go a full 4-hour Zack Snyder BVS cut if we weren't careful. So
yeah, no, it was good fun. I don't get to talk about the bat. I know it's long, but you guys do a good thing.
Like I said,
I like following. It's crazy the guys that you have on. You guys trip out on that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it does still happen. Yeah, like even I think if we just look back at some of the things that we've done, some of the people that we've ended up having on the show, like what we had Todd McFarlane on the show.
Yeah, Paul Dini.
Right.
I mean, like,
dude,
for a while, we pretty much, like, Bermejo. Some of these guys, like, they know, like, whenever they want something announced, they'll just, like, sometimes they hit us up. So that's even crazier. Yeah. So
especially as a not just like fellas that do a podcast, but a bat oriented thing, and it's like you have the who's who, and not just of this era, but like having the Conroys and the Deanies, even if it's just part of the intro or whatever. It's like just hearing their voices. It's like, man, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, big, and like we've had Tim Sale on, we've had Marv Wolfman,
Kelly Jones,
a lot of craziness.
The Kelly Jones annuals are my favorite.
Yeah, man, that's insane. That the fact that we get to say that is, and he's like, let's do it. I'm like, okay, all right, we have a standing appointment.
I absolutely love that. And the funniest part too is, like, I feel weird. Like my younger self, I did not like his artwork just because I don't think it was too different than what I was used to.
I'm the same. Yeah, I was too scared of it. I thought it was too scary, so I stayed away from it.
And now, as an older person, I'm like, I revisit it more than I revisit the other. I'll read Gotham After Midnight before I'll read Year One, for instance, just because I kind of want, like, I kind of want to look at his artwork.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I love that Wrightson feel because I grew up, looking at a lot of Bernie Wrightson artwork, and that that scary Batman movie I want. There it is, man.
Yeah. I wish we could have had Bernie on.
Yeah. I met him. He worked on a couple films at Canby. He came in and designed on The Mist.
Cool.
That's where I got to meet it. Like he did most of his drawing at home. And I also know his son, John, who works in and out of the industry. He works at K&B on occasion. He's a sculptor. Nice kid. And his dad would, when I met him, I'm like, yeah, I know you're Bernie's son. Your name's John, but hey, it's Bernie's son. Yeah, your dad was awesome. So it was that horror part that, because we had creepy, eerie, and like horror was such a big factor of the 70s. And then I'm hoping that the scary comes back in the Batman.
Yeah.
We're going to tangent. It's going to be another 60 minutes. I appreciate being a part of this, fellas. I do.
Hey, man, we appreciate
it. It was a blast, man.
It's a blast,
Yeah, I know it's like there's more stories and anecdotes, but maybe, Tom, you're close, dude. Once everything opens up a little bit and we get back to some kind of normal, we can get together and have a beer and talk music too, dude.
Hell yeah, man. I'm all chipped up, so I'm good to go. It's like I got that chip, so they're tracking me wherever I go, and so I'm good.
Well, good. That way, if something happens, they can help me out. It's like hit the location. I'll just touch the button. It's like there it is. Okay.
All right, Rob. Well, hey, man. Again, this is a blast. Like and as fans, we're the guys that when we see your work on screen, we're the ones who appreciate it the most because it's awesome to know that like there's fans on the inside giving the fans on the outside what they want. So
there's a few of us. The best part is like guys on your side and whoever is listening to this, it's like reach out, don't be shy. Because that's the thing that like, when Sean Reeves and I, when we became friends, it was before BVS. And the funniest part was during BVS, he wanted, like I see him at Monster Palooza, we'd go have a beer. He's like, so how's it going? I'm like, going well. And he wants to ask, but he doesn't. But those of us that work on it, we want to talk about it. And those that we work with don't.
Yeah.
So fellas like yourself, like, when you want to talk about it, random texts, emails, I don't care. You want to do this again? And even for the podcast, not for the podcast, I don't have to, like, my friends make fun of me. They say Batman, blah, 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 don't mention Batman. He won't shut up.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's why we have, that's how this started is we weren't recording for the first couple of months. After a while, we were like, I'm pretty sure like we should probably do something with this. This is too much fun. Other people will like it. And that's, here we are like years later.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. It's been really cool. I've enjoyed it. I know it was long, but it was fun to talk about the Bat.
We expected that, and I just wanted to make sure we were respectful of your time because, we knew it was kind of we were glad to at least have the opportunity to ask you as much as we did. So, like I said, man, if you're down for more, then we got more.
Always. There's always more antidotes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope for more Batfleck.
Exactly.
Because we're getting them in the Flash, and like I said, it's like I'm hoping. And even like in Justice League, even if I don't get to work on it, I don't care because the guy's good. The guy likes the character. Like he's one of us. He's a comic book fan.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about one of us on the inside? How about one of us is wearing the fucking cowl?
Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, that's just the straight up easiest way to put it. He's a comic book dude and he's Batman. So that's fucking badass. Yeah. And on that note,
well, all right, man. You have yourself a good rest of the weekend,
thanks,
all right?
Guys. Yeah, man. Yeah, we will. I'll be in touch.
Nice meeting you. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, dude. It goes the same.
Yeah, we'll be definitely in touch. For the
all right, Rob.
All right. See you, Robin.
Later, man. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.